Welcome to another edition of the Dogger Pass Podcast. This for UFC on ABC 2. I'm Paul Shaughnessy, joined in studio by Cody Saftic, off the heels of just like a Bellator domination. Bellator chalk, good chalk. I know it was like a 7-leg parlay that paid like 3-1.
That's Bellator for you.
That's Bellator. That's so Bellator for you. It was easy money.
Well, actually, so everybody knows, I'm sure that we've had a bit of a rough stretch to start the year, but those seem to be in the rearview mirror, all those problems. The last 3 weeks, so the last 2 UFC cards were 17 of 20, right? The last 3 UFC cards, 27 and 7. Good for 80% over the last 3 events. And then, yeah, you mentioned the Bellator, we went 8 for 10, got the meaningful parlays. So hopefully we can keep this good times alive. Speaking of keeping good times alive, a little tradition of the show. I guess we're drinking Land Shark Lager.
The show is not brought to you by Land Shark Lager, but it could be brought to you by Land Shark Lager if they want to support the pod. I could drink these every episode.
I think they give away like free T-shirts or something with a 2-for.
Delicious.
So like, why not give us some prize giveaways for the fans?
Send all media inquiries and advertising inquiries to mayomediainc@gmail.com, care of Pat Mayo.
Yeah, remember to like smash the like button, do all of those things.
Yeah,
Pat, tell a friend, share, download the pod. Tell all of your friends to download the pod. Cody's back on a heater, so get in while the getting's good.
So like the show, leave a comment because that stuff's always good. And tag Landshark in a tweet, being like, what's up? Where's the sponsorship at? But yeah, we've got 14 fights now, 15 fights as of like a half hour ago, but we're already starting to drop some. Obviously, the UFC is doing that. They're in Vegas. We anticipate some of these are going to fall off. But
something's happening on Friday. We never get unscathed when you have this many fights on Friday. Yeah. Somebody's missing weight. Somebody's having a bad weight cut. Or somebody's getting COVID. Obviously, that's the most, or at least having a false positive or whatever. We're used to it at this point. Them's the breaks. Shall we just get into it?
Yeah, let's jump into this.
We have Marvin Vettori taking on Big Mouth. Big Mouth coming back into the fold after a pretty dismal performance against Derek Brunson only a few weeks ago. Vettori is a minus 350 favorite. Big Mouth can be had 4 plus 275. Take it away, Cody.
Yeah, I think you got to go with Marvin Vettori. Odds are obviously reflecting that, minus 350. And listen, there's always going to be a bunch of holes in Kevin Holland's game. I mean, he's just so wild and he's kind of at times reckless. What we saw in the Derek Brunson fight, dude, that was the narrative going in, right? He always gives up takedowns, right? You go over the numbers. He's given down literally takedowns to all these guys. He gave 6 officially to Brunson. 2 to Jacare, was 2 of 2. 3 to Darren Stewart. He got taken down twice by Brandon Allen, twice by Alicia DiChirico, 6 times by Gerald Mearshart, 3 times by Thiago Santos, once by Will Santiago. Like, everybody and their mother who wants to take this guy down get the takedowns. But the narrative was 5 rounds. He's got the power. He talks the trash. He gets in your head. And the way he knocks out Jacare Souza, he just got awarded his BJJ black belt under Travis Lutter. Once upon a time was called the Michael Jordan of BJJ. All I'm saying is that it looked like he was very confident in getting going, but that performance against Brunson, man, I mean, that's hard to overlook anytime moving forward. He mentally quits half a dozen times in that fight. His corner has to continuously be like, come on, Kevin, come on. And he'd be like, man, I can't do anything. It's
asking Khabib for advice and...
Asking Khabib for advice, it's cool to see him get the takedown in the 5th round because then you saw that confidence going again where he's like, oh shit, I just took Derek Brunson. But that was like his mental victory. Like right then and there, he was just like, cool, I completed a takedown over Brunson, who's never been taken down in the UFC. Cool feather in your hat. And that was like his moral victory. But his cornerman was like continuously after him. Dude, like, do you want to win this fight? And in the 5th round, it's most concerning. It's going between 4 and 5, right? You get that 1 minute in between when they go in his corner. It's most concerning. And he just straight up tells them, like, he's like, guys, I know. But there's nothing I can do about it. Fuck you mean there's nothing you can do about it? This is a prize fight. You've already heard him in the 3rd round. He's clearly very tired. Like, the fact that you're still talking to them, the fact that you're still talking to him, the fact that you're still talking to Khabib and Dana, you've got some energy. You've got some go. Like, go out there and throw a flying knee. Like, at least try to make something.
It was like beginning of round 2, he caught Brunson with something.
Was it 2 or 3? Was it 2? It might have been 2. You could be right on that. Yeah.
But
he did
catch him with that. And that was his real path to victory in that Brunson fight. Is find a knockout. Like, I wasn't interested in Holland minus 175 in that spot. We had a good night, and I ended up sprinkling a little bit, which was a big-time loser, on him by knockout. But I think in this spot here against Vettori, it's just like Vettori hasn't shown the same ability to take, like his ability to take damage has, been untested. The guy's got a great chin. He kind of reminds me of, he's basically 185-pound RDA.
Right. Or like
maybe he doesn't have the same level of submission skills, obviously, as RDA. But like the stand-up's pretty similar. He's got pretty good takedowns. I mean, hopefully he just plays this smart and just take down Kevin Holland, stay out of trouble.
Of course.
Don't try to posture up too much and eat some shots from the bottom like Jacare did. Wear this guy out. I can't imagine Holland's put in much of a training camp whatsoever for this fight specifically. I imagine he probably rested for a while after getting beat up by Derek Brunson for a while. Like, he's just coming off of the couch for this fight. He was talking about going down to 170.
Yeah, which he should.
Which I think he should if he can get there.
He always weighs in like a $183.
He does.
Which would show you he's not cutting any weight.
No.
If he is cutting weight, he's not cutting it properly, but he's not cutting much. So you would think he could make 170. You would think even if he took a week off, he didn't have any preparations for this fight. And I honestly think that the takedowns is just your get-out-of-jail-free card, right? I think Marvin Vettori can actually just pressure him and strike him and have a lot of success there as well. You look at Kevin Holland, this is universal through all of his fights. He either finishes you quick or it becomes like a greasy stretch run in which he does not prevail. The Gerald Meerschaert fight, his cardio definitely collapses in that one. Finishes Anthony Hernandez quick, finishes Joaquin Buckley quick. The Darren Stewart fight, cardio definitely collapses on him on that one. Loses the third round, taken down multiple times by Stewart. Not a good round for him. Charlie Ontiveros finishes him quick. Jacare Souza finishes him quick. So that was the narrative in the Brunson fight, was like he's going to have to catch this guy quick, intercept him, Brunson, chin up in the air, knock this guy out in the first 2, maybe 3 rounds. But if it extends out, his cardio just hasn't proven to be good. Vettori, meanwhile, hadn't fought 5 rounds, okay? So now you give him a main event against Jack Hermanson. And I back him there. He's an underdog spot. I like this kid. He's only 27 years old. King's MMA. He's super confident and he's super durable. But we haven't seen him in a 5-rounder, right? Goes out there, wins the first 2. Little Cody's doing the dance, baby. I'm feeling good about it. The 3rd round, he loses, and he starts to look fatigued. Now, this is the real test of the mettle of a young fighter, right? How do you prevail from that? He comes back, wins 4 and 5, makes the adjustments, goes through. Now you see he's got 5-round cardio. Now you see he can make mid-fight adjustments. You know his chin's good. He's never been finished. He's got everything. He's got a very promising future ahead of him. They book him in a main event spot against Darren Till. This is great. Darren Till's a former title challenger. He's also young in the division. He's exciting.
Stop the takedown.
Yeah, I mean, again, who do you pick in that fight?
That's a good thing for him, too.
We're taking Vettori, right?
I don't think the game plan changes all that much from Darren Till.
But the UFC is looking to sell either Darren Till comes out there and beats Vettori, and that would be a huge win for him, or Vettori goes out there, lets the ball keep rolling, and moves himself into title contention. Dana White, UFC, marketing team, everybody's on the same page. We know what we're doing here, right? They publicly wrote off Kevin Holland a couple weeks ago, being like, fucking guy. He compared him to Oliver McCall. And if you're a boxing fan, you'd get that reference, but it was like Oliver McCall was physically crying in the middle of the ring, staring at the corner post, talking to Jesus. Like, how could you make that comparison, Dana? But he did, right? That's how much they were like, Kevin Holland really shit away this opportunity. And now that he's in this main event, like, okay, dude, like he has a great opportunity here to rewrite history, right the wrongs, get back in the win column, but this is a tough task, man. And so I think Vettori can just back him up with the strikes, outstrike him. You see him versus Jack Hermanson, like 165 significant strikes landed. You look at Kevin Holland, like after 2 rounds, his output falls off completely. He's never really he's not landed anywhere close to 100 significant strikes in a fight. He's hittable. He's there to be taken down. His cardio's suspect. And Vettori's a guy that's just like really focused right now. So the price is $350. I don't love that.
I think the price is getting close to about right. I'd probably think.
So would you say
the max would be minus 400? So he's like 80% of the time Marvin Vettori comes away victorious in this spot. That's kind of how I think, and I think the price is pretty close. I have already parlayed him because I couldn't help myself.
Yeah, of course, he's parlay material. What I'm looking at beyond that is this over-under, right? Do you go with the over 3.5 rounds? I see the over 4.5 is plus money. Do you think fight goes the distance again? So with Kevin Holland, he himself is durable, right? He's not getting knocked out. You can submit him potentially, but is Vettori going to submit him? No, I wouldn't think so. No. He just went 5 rounds against Brunson, albeit he got blanketed for the majority of that. I would say that this one could definitely bank some rounds as well. So I don't know if I fully go by decision, but the over 3.5, something to look at.
4.5.
I know 4.5 sitting here at plus 130, so 3.5 is going to be minus, but it might be like minus 120. Pat might be able to bring it up
for sure. He doesn't even need to pick it up.
But. Yeah, because again, if there is going to be a finish here,
if you can get a 3.5, some books won't give it to you.
Yeah, if Kevin Holland quits on himself and is tired, and that'll happen late in the third, fourth, maybe fifth round. So I would hope to hit.
These are just the types of spots. I don't think Kevin Holland's an entertainer. I like him. I like the guy. I like the fact that he's willing to step up and take these types of spots, but I just think he's more of an entertainer. I threw out the idea of him going down to 170, taking on Michel Pereira. Pants off party. That would be a great time.
That would be a sweet time. Pereira takes him down pretty easy. But Pereira has no ring IQ, so he might not take that.
They're both entertainers. It would be a good time. Like I don't see Kevin Holland, especially at 185 pounds, really cracking this top 5.
And you know what the biggest
Brunson
problem?
really was like the eye opener. Unless Kevin Holland, a puncher's chance, lands the perfect shot. I just don't see him competing with these top guys at 185.
Yeah, the last thing I'll sprinkle that on is that it's no problem that you don't think Kevin Holland is not a title contender. The problem is that Kevin Holland doesn't think Kevin Holland's a title contender. And he's gone on record saying, I want to be the co-main event king, right? Mm-hmm. And now co-main event's apparently 5 rounds, so maybe he wants to be like the featured prelim king. But like he wants to take the route of Donald Cerrone, Neil Magny, fight 5 times a year,
be a fan favorite.
Fight mid-level competition, give it an exciting fight. But as soon as he's taking on these top 10 guys, he's going to be in trouble. This is more than a top 10 matchup. In my opinion, this is a top 5 matchup. It just doesn't play well for him. So we're going to go with Marvin Vettori 350.
We have Sadiq Yusuff taking on Arnold Allen, minus 145 Yusuff, plus 125 Allen. Who you got?
Yeah, okay. So obviously we're all team Sadiq Yusuff throughout his UFC career. I mean, we've backed this guy numerous times, and it just seems like he's the complete package. So I don't want to drum on this like narrative of the 3 African champions now, and you see what Francis Ngannou's done, and Kamaru Usman and Israel Adesanya, but it's like there's definitely a wave going, and Sadiq Yusuff fits in incredibly well. He's not like a Kennedy Njoku, where he's still very raw, still figuring out his game. Like he's extremely refined. Being that he's a Muay Thai striker primarily, and you see how good his striking, how tight and compact it is, he's always going to have that in his back pocket. But being at a Team Lloyd Irvin, spending a lot of time working on his ground game, I think he's just rounded it out perfectly. He's still very young. You look at his losses. I mean, he's lost one fight to Luis Gomez, was a slam. That's 4 years ago. Now it's in the rearview mirror. But the Mike Davis fight on Contender Series, that's like probably the most technical, best fight you'll see on a contender to get a contract into the UFC. Very high level stuff. He looks very good there. Suman Mkhitaryan's a total bum. But what do you do to a total bum if you're that much better than him? You cook him out of there really quick. Exactly what he does. Shema Moraes, tough fight. Gabriel Benitez, tough fight. Blows him out of the water. Andre Fili, tough fight. And you just see he's getting better and he's getting more comfortable. The problem is that he doesn't fight a ton. 2 fights in 2018, 2 fights in 2019, fought just once in 2020. He had a scheduled fight with Edson Barbosa. There's a great barometer test. There's a real great indication of where this guy's at in that fight. But unfortunately, he pulls out of it, and now he's been on the sidelines for 15 months. So young, getting better, improving at a very quick rate. I have no doubt that I would say that he's regressed in his overall game. It's just that he's going to have some ring rust coming into this fight. And with Arnold Allen is another one of these young kids, 27 years old, getting better every time out, but he's really got to rely on that grappling game. He's really got to get you to the ground at some point. And I don't know that he's going to be able to get Sadiq Yusuff to the ground. So if this ends up just being a striking battle, I think that Sadiq just lands the more meaningful shots. Yeah, his minus 145 is not a terrible price. I think this one is close. I think this one is going the distance, and the over-under is a clear indication that the bookies think it's going the distance as well. But I just think that it's going to be primarily spent on the feet, and that he's going to have the sharper striking.
I mean, Arnold Allen, you go through his record and the fights that he's had. Honestly, that fight against Nick Lentz is pretty damn close. Mm-hmm. And you go through the rest of his fights. Well, he's taken down like 6 times by Mads Brunel. You go through it. The path to victory for him, I think, is try to use the grappling, as you were saying. But because you saw it against Fili, was able to take down Yusuff a couple times. That does seem to be the hole that you can exploit in his game, but I just don't see it from Arnold Allen whatsoever. He's given up 1 inch of reach to Sadiq Yusuff. I think Sadiq Yusuff is a harder hitter, more volume. I'm totally with you. I bet Yusuff yesterday, minus 124. laid the wood pretty good on that one.
Yeah, and you see money coming in, and I just think that you'll have a better indication on weigh-ins when you see him weigh in and look filled out, but you're not going to get a good of a price tag. So you jumped on it at the right time. And again, the last thing that I want to bring up here is that with Arnold Allen, he's on a good little stretch, but it's favorable matchmaking, right?
Yeah, so like the Gill fights, like that was the shell of the shell of the shell of Gill.
Well, first of all, he beats Nick Lentz, right? So Nick Lentz has definitely seen better days, and even though he's a tough out for anybody still, because he's got that willingness and that desire.
The volume's just not there for Allen. You go through most of his fights. He's just not through, except for the Gill fight, and Gill's just a standing target at this point.
Right. And so that's his last fight, and it's 15 months ago. So he's got the same...
Lentz was last, I believe.
Lentz's last time out. So he's taking on an aged veteran who primarily is a wrestler, but again, close fight. That's a 15 months ago. Same as Sodiq Yusuff. So I guess that their layoffs are going to pretty much nullify each other. Prior to that, he gets Gilbert Melendez. Come on. And he looked good in that fight. But come on, it's Gilbert Melendez. A shell of Gilbert Melendez. That's favorable matchmaking. These guys are on their way out. No longer with the promotion. Nick Lentz is, but barely holding on. Gilbert Melendez, no longer with the company. And then Jordan Rinaldi. Okay, that's a winnable fight for any of the guys competing at this level, in the UFC. And then the Mads Burnell fight. So if you'll remember the Mads Burnell fight, he lost the first 2 rounds. And he submitted in the third. It was just like, my God. The Makwan Amirkhani fight, he wins a split decision. It's like, phew, dude. Close-ass fight. So it's not only was the Nick Lentz fight, his most recent fight, a close fight. It's like he tends to be in these rather close affairs.
Where he wins striking exchanges, but I think your buddy
Alan Omer, he lost the first 2 rounds and submitted him in the third. That's another one, right? So go on. But
your boy MMA prediction guru, who you do like the other shows with.
Yeah.
He brought up a good point. I saw him post this tweet. Who's the best striker that Arnold Allen has faced?
Right, fair, because we just looked at the opponents, and they're all
mostly grapplers.
Yeah, power grapplers. Alan Omer, technically, he's a Tiger Muay Thai guy. That fight was a long time ago. But again, he lost the first fucking 2 rounds. So what you see is he goes in these fights, he loses these striking exchanges, he gets the fight to the ground, he makes it close, he makes it competitive, he's got a lot of heart. I definitely see his fight going the distance, which is why, you're seeing that minus 200 for the over 2.5. But yeah, what it comes down to is that I think that Sodiq Yusuff is just sharper. He'll win those striking exchanges. If Arnold Allen does manage to get him to the ground, he's going to be okay, or he's going to scramble, get back up, make him work. This comes down to cardio, and Sodiq's given us no reason to question his cardio. So yeah, I'm going to take him. Minus 145. You obviously got the better price tag, but as of the recording of the show,
price shopping matters. There's probably minus 130, 135 out there still. So that would be my suggestion on that. All right, we got Julian Marquez taking on Sam Alvey, minus 190 Marquez, plus 165 Alvey. Obviously, this is back at 185 pounds. Smiling Sam, last 6 fights have all been up at 205, and he has not had a great run up there whatsoever. In fairness, the fight against Jung,
he might have won that fight.
I mean, that 10-8 from that one judge, abysmal. So he probably should have won that fight. It should have been a 10-9, and then he would have ended up winning that because it was a split draw. Split draw. And then the previous fight of that, it was pretty competitive. Like Smiling Sam, we know what he's going to do. Very, very low output. He's going to back up. He wants to land the big left on you. Marquez was honestly getting his ass handed to him the first 2 rounds against Maki Pitolo last time out. And then James Krause, and maybe this is the biggest advantage that Marquez has, is that Krause is one hell of a coach, and he is one hell of a corner man. And he told him, he has levels with them. You see it all the time whenever they mic him up. Just like, you're down. You need to finish this fight. And he went out there, got the job done. Failed in the post fight because he had Miley Cyrus. Miley Cyrus pays attention to him on Twitter. And then what happens? He asked for another demand of Miley Cyrus, who's got like 40 million followers on social media. She could have changed your bum life, and he'll never
even for a night would have been pretty fucking awesome.
Asked her to be her Valentine, and then he makes another bogus. So he took a win and an L that night, as far as I'm concerned.
The L bigger than the win, in my opinion.
Yeah, same here. I want to see the weigh-ins with Smiling Sam here. I'm not too excited about Marquez minus 190 here. I don't think he's got all that many advantages. And Sam Alvey has a tendency to be able to lull people into this slow-paced fight. I want to see Smiling Sam. We always talk about it. 205 down to 185, 20 pounds. That is a game breaker in terms of a weight cut. He's 34 years old, hasn't been down to 185 since he was 30. I want to see the weigh-ins, but for me right now, it would be dog or pass. I would take Smiling Sam.
Yeah, I got to go the other way and go Julian Marquez. Speaking of guys that lost the first 2 rounds and had to come back with a buzzer beater, at least Grant Dawson had an argument that he was either up 2, maybe it was 1-1. Like, he didn't really need to finish in the third. Thank God he did, because we had that 3rd round TKO prop. But yeah, I mean, with Julian Marquez, what I really liked about that fight is that he got to get some cage time in, because that's what he needed. He'd been off for A, a really long time, lots of ring runs, lots of time on the sidelines, and B, he tore his latissimus dorsi, had like 2 major surgeries on it. Like, how does a guy come back from that? Does a guy come back from that? The first 2 rounds, you see he's definitely robotic. His takedown defense is awful in the first 2 rounds. Maki Pitolo, a Hawaiian boxer, is taking him down at will. Like, it's not a good look for him, but he needed to get that cage time in. He needed to get that ring rust off of him. And in the 3rd round, he turns the tables. He gets a submission win. Again, being able to experience that, having James Krause make those adjustments. Now you go back to the gym. Now he's obviously healthy, comes out of that fight unscathed. Relatively quick turnaround since that performance. I would expect him to be better. I'd expect the cardio to be a little bit better. I'd expect the sharpness to be a little bit better. His timing is going to be a little bit better. I just expecting a bit of a better version of him. Whereas Sam Alvey, the weight cut, I think, is going to be a massive, massive issue. I met Sam Alvey a couple of years ago now, and he was a big guy. And I remember we were talking with him. We were like, what do you weigh right now? Like 220? He's like, oh, yeah, probably like 225. Fighting at middleweight, weighing in at 225. And then after that conversation, he officially moved to 205 pounds. And for a lot of people, it was like, Sam Alvey's not going to be a big 205er, and he's not, right? He is durable. He is hard to take down. He does have some decent power. It doesn't really translate to 205 pounds. You did see him beat Marcin Prachnio, who just walked into the shot. And then I guess technically he has a split decision win over John Vellante. But outside of that, he was outsized, outmuscled. So now at 36, he needs to make this weight cut down. But I don't know if I think it's just, I'm on a 3-fight losing streak. 4-fight losing streak in the UFC. He had the draw against Dong Jung. If he loses this fight, he's out. Backs up against the wall. His best path.
He's got like 9 kids to feed.
Dude, yeah, like 5 of them are his own, and maybe 4 of them are his own. He's adopted 2 kids. He's a great guy. He's basically one of like the primary coaches now at Dan Henderson's Ultimate Training Center in Temecula, California, the old Team Quest. Mm-hmm. He's got other things going on. His wife won season 6 of America's Next Top Model. Yeah, I know, but I'm saying they got some side income coming in. I don't know if there's
that much money coming in from that.
Yeah, I feel like he's got 1 foot out the door at this point. Now, he was supposed to fight out Zach Cummings in this spot. Julian Marquez is replacing Cummings, and they're training partners, right? Yeah. So you know that James Krause is A, got a game plan already put together, and that B, Marquez comes out unscathed, goes right back into the gym. Getting Miley, okay, you got her like hook, line, and sinker, dog. And then he counters with you need to write Cuban Missile Crisis.
You don't tell Miley Cyrus.
I know.
Yeah, she said
tattoo.
To put like an MC in his chest hair. And then he went back with like, you have to put, I don't know.
So the best thing you can do is now come in this fight and body Sam Alvey if you've got any shot at a redemption.
Ask for forgiveness from Miley.
Right. I'm sorry. I took a couple shots to the head in that last fight. It was a 3rd round buzzer beater submission. I had no idea what I was thinking, right? I was concussed for a few days when I tweeted that out to you. My bad, right? But you got to go beat Sam Alvey, right? So what I'm getting at with Sam Alvey is I think this weight cut's really going to hurt him. As well, if you follow him on social media, and he's a pretty candid guy.
On the TikToks?
Yeah, definitely on TikTok. I get him on Facebook, right? That seems to be where he like lets out his personal shit. But he's like open on this is an awful weight cut and it's not going particularly good. And the cut to 185 is difficult and this, that, and the other, right? And when he fought Dong Jung, that was kind of like, let's be fair, the Ryan Spann fight. Loses the first 2 rounds and dude, he looked good in the 3rd round. Mm-hmm. Cardio's never been an issue for him.
Classic Sam.
Yeah, durability's never been an issue for him. That Dong Jung fight, he wins the first 2 rounds, right? He's up 2.
It was like reverse Sam. Usually he does nothing and then he turns it on in round 3.
But he realizes I'm about to get released from the promotion, right? I'm on a 4-fight losing streak. He actually, on Facebook, was like, shit, I'm surprised I got the Dong Jung fight. So he's got nothing to lose. But Dong Jung fights this game plan, awful game plan, where he just runs head first into all of Sam Alvey's shots. And you know Sam Alvey as good as anybody, loves to counterpunch, right? Doesn't like to lead the dance, loves to counterpunch. So as a result, Alvey's able to scrap up some time on him. In the 3rd round, this is where Alvey generally shines. He gets dropped by Dong Jung. I was really banking on a 10-8 3rd round. I wanted the 10-8. I know you said that judge was... That's not acceptable anymore. But yeah, you're saying the judge is off.
Don't get us canceled.
Yeah, my bad. YouTube probably, when they hit that on the closed captioning, we're going to get flagged. What I'm saying is that I was really hoping it was a 10-8 round because I was hoping to get a draw, get a push, move on from this bet. Bad bet. Sam Alvey probably won this fight. So to get a draw on the basis of one guy actually scored the fight for him, Yeah. Pretty crazy that they did get sided like that. But what I'm saying is that Alvey's got the durability, but maybe now that he's getting a little bit older, it's not quite there. You have seen him get him hurt. You have seen him get knocked out now. You saw Jung hurt him in the third round. You saw that cardio wasn't particularly great in that third round. Now he's got to make that cut down to 185 pounds. I think that Marquez has his number. The last thing being that Julian Marquez gave up those 5 takedowns to Maki Pitolo, and that was a big issue for him, right? If you went in with a game plan in this fight of taking down Julian Marquez repeatedly, you could, right? I think a lesser wrestler could definitely have success.
Sam never does that.
Sam doesn't have any offensive wrestling. He barely ever shoots a takedown, right? If anything, he just tries to hook you up against the cage and then lean on you and, have a little bit of cage control time. But he's not one to go out there and shoot in the open field, or let alone have a game plan that is, chain wrestler guy. So I think Marquez will be able to keep the fight standing, where they're both going to be low output. They're both going to have relatively the same amount of power, but I think his timing will be a little bit better this fight, and he'll edge it ever so slightly. And if the fight does hit the ground,
minus 190 ever so slightly, that doesn't sound like fun.
You know what I'm hitting? I'm hitting this over 2.5 at plus 100.
Fair.
Because Sam Alvey's a really durable guy. Knocking him out is one hell of a task. Submitting him, that's not going to happen, right? And then likewise, he's known for his power punching as well. But, if the weight cut doesn't go good for him, he's got the first round to do it. Julian Marquez has got a hell of a beard on him, let's be real. And then under that beard, got a pretty good chin on him as well. Cuban guy, they can take one hell of a shot. I would say that this thing's probably going. If it was going to be a finish, it'd be like, again, he hit a buzzer beater against Maki Pitolo. Maybe something happens late in this fight, but we're not even taking fight goes the distance, which I would also take, by the way. But we're just looking at this over 2.5 at plus 100, even money. That would be my favorite play for this fight.
I can get on board with that. All right, we got Nina Ansaroff taking on Mackenzie Dern, minus 135 Ansaroff, plus 115 for Mackenzie Dern. Nina Ansaroff obviously had a baby 6 months ago. She's been in camp for 3 months. Her last fight was, she got taken down 4 times by the goat. In my opinion, the lady goat, definitely the wrestling goat, Tatiana Suarez. Rewatching her fight with Gadella, got taken down twice early in that fight. That seems to be the path, but you have to remember, this is a girl who out volume striked with Angela Hill. I don't know, just watching Dern, I see her trying to go for takedowns. She's 1 of 18. I posted the stat on Twitter.
Yeah, I know. She's not wrestling like Gadella and Suarez, by the way.
One of 18 in her takedown attempts. Now, she has 3 submissions. Why? Because, Rana Marcos follows her to the ground. She ends up clubbing people. She throws heavy heaters. Overhand rights. She's got some pop for a 115-pound woman. And I think she's made tons of improvements. But I kind of think that we're going to see Mackenzie Dern just moving forward, and Ansaroff is going to be ready, fighting off of her back foot. The pregnancy and having the baby not that long ago does concern me a little bit. Minus 135 is fine, but I took Nina by decision plus 175. I think this goes to decision. And Dern has been very, very durable. She's a gamer. There's no disrespect coming from me towards Dern. I just think Dern's going to have a problem getting this fight to the ground. Ansaroff has maybe one of the best game planners in her corner.
Yeah, that's going to be a big thing. Man.
And I think that they're going to have the right game plan here. Fight off of your back foot, pepper her when she comes in, and get off on angles. So Nina Ansaroff by decision plus 175. I'm in.
And honestly, I agree with you. I think when you look at the list of opponents for Mackenzie Dern, a lot of it's been bad ring IQ, bad. I don't want to say bad coaching. I don't want to put it on them. It's just poor choices in there. She beat Ashley Yoder once upon a time in a split decision. Wasn't exactly the most, the greatest fight
Only
for her.
takedown she's ever landed.
I know, crazy. The Amanda Cooper fights, Cooper's at a Scorpion fight team in Michigan, right? Amanda Rebus, she loses the Rebus fight. Let's keep that one real, right? And that's going back to this elite level competition, good coaching.
Rebus could hang out in her guard and not get subbed, which is key.
Yeah, with Hannah Cyphers, right? Hannah Cyphers lit her up standing, man, bad. And then it was thank God this thing hit the ground, and she just locks up a knee bar, and it's she submits it, right? We know her ground game is world class. Randa Marcos, again, she's at a Michigan top team. She made a very bad decision to follow her to the ground. Otherwise, she was having some success in that fight. It's a poor decision. Then Verna Jandronova, again, it wasn't exactly the greatest game plan. Nina Ansaroff, for sure, coming out of American top team, being with Amanda Nunes, you're not getting the B class. You're not getting the C class squads, right? You're not getting the C class coaching. You're getting the best of the best. You're getting Mike Brown. You're getting Brown. He's going to spend his time. They're going to break down this opponent to the fullest of his ability. She's 35 years old. She just had a kid, right? So if you told me this is Nina Ansaroff a year ago, Nina Ansaroff 2 years ago, This is money in the bank, Paul. But there are those question marks, right? There's a lot of assumptions here. And this is a card that we've had to make a lot of assumptions on a lot of these guys, right? They're coming off layoffs, coulda, shoulda, woulda, what's going to happen?
Just wait till we get to Yargis Danho.
Holy fuck, man. 4.5 years, right? But anyways, but Nina Ansaroff, right? Coming back, I have to assume she's not going to be at the level she was. And her takedown defense is a problem. But yeah, I mean, does she get taken down by Mackenzie Dern? No. Mackenzie Dern's takedowns are terrible. What she likes to do is pull guard. If she does pull guard, I feel like Nina Ansaroff's grappling is good enough to survive a little bit, but just don't follow her to the ground. Have the game plan to just walk away and use that volume. She's super raw, right? Like you said with the right hand. This is a girl for 100, whatever she wants to weigh at, 115, 125. She packs a lot of heat in that right hand. But like you see with a lot of these people that have, some decent pop, she'll just throw the right hand. It's just like clubbing overhand right into a clinch, try to take you down. The kicks, it's a work in progress. The striking is a work in progress. You can see she's getting better. You can see she's a good prospect. You can see that she's obviously putting time in. But with Nina Ansaroff, again, 35, it's like a refined, finished product, right? And what you've seen out of Ansaroff is she's fighting the best of the best. Like Claudia Gadelli's a former title challenger. She's a top 5, top 3
and
opponent.
She's a great wrestler in round 1.
Yeah, I wouldn't say great wrestler, but so strong in round 1 that she can take down even great wrestlers, right? Like her takedown game is very good in the first round. And so you give up those first round takedowns, but you just keep working her. And that's what she does. She tires her out, she works her, she gets the striking. The Tatiana Suarez fight, mind you and I, we love Tatiana Suarez, you especially, your baby. There's never been like any type of sweat in a Suarez fight. There's never been like no one's ever really like shown any resistance to Tatiana Suarez. At least with Ansaroff, it's like she fought her. She went out there and she did the dance, right? And she gives up the 4 takedowns. And with Suarez, it's like injuries that she took, probably in training as well. But what I mean is she came out of that fight banged up. Whereas like Ansaroff, decided to have a kid and go this other direction. But, I made a comment with Amanda Nunes' fight prior to the Megan Anderson fight, right? Obviously, she's going to win. But if there was a question mark, it's like, how does a child coming into your life affect things, right? And it was like, oh, she was motivated. She had like a vigor
baby
to her.
Swag.
She's reinvigorated. And so to all the baby mamas out there, right? You have a kid, and now it's like your life changes. You're not going out doing that. You get this pent up anger, this pent up aggression. How many of them can sign a contract, get paid $100,000? In Ansaroff's case, probably closer to like 60 grand to go out there and fight somebody and let that aggression out. And so no doubt that this is her night out. This is her girls' night out. And Ansaroff's going to go out there and do her damnedest to win this fight. Minus 135 is an acceptable price tag, but the decision prop, like you mentioned, she can hit you 130 significant times, bust you up, but not do a ton of damage. And with Mackenzie Dern, like she's
very,
wily,
very durable, very tough.
Got a willingness to get out there and scrap. She's got that just scrap mentality.
She's got the fighter, like the fighter warrior in her blood.
Yeah, raw. Yeah, her dad, exactly. Legend in his own right. She's got no quit. It's bred into her. She wrestled in high school, so she's not completely out of her element. She's just not physically strong enough to go out there at the UFC and wrestle. Ansaroff would be the opponent to do it against. And if this fight does hit the ground with her on top, we've got a serious problem on our hands. But similar to the Claudia fight, it's like, just survive. Claudia was a BJJ world champion. Claudia's really strong. If the fight does hit the ground, just survive. Second and third, let's get on her. Let's get on her. Let's work her. Let's get the win.
Yeah, Daniel Rodriguez takes on Mike Perry. Daniel Rodriguez is a minus 160 favorite. Mike Perry can be had for plus 140. I mean, I don't know how you can bet Mike Perry without at least waiting for the weigh-ins. Obviously against Tim Means, comes in there, he posts on Twitter that he's going to miss weight. The guy just had a kid recently. This guy at the best of times is an absolute head case. So it's really, really hard to know where this guy's head's at, whether he's going to make weight. I can't even really make much of a prediction on this fight. I don't think Daniel Rodriguez is some sort of world beater, but Mike Perry, I think we may have seen the best of Mike Perry. We will see. Maybe fatherhood has changed Platinum Mike, but if the YouTube clips of him beating up old men and all the other shit that he gets up to is any indication, this guy hasn't really changed. I guess I'll pick Daniel Rodriguez just on a little bit longer striking. But I'm not too confident, to be perfectly honest. Who knows? Who knows with this one? There's 14 fights on the card. I didn't really feel a need to make a stand on this one. What about you?
Yeah, okay, so fair. That's the problem with Mike Perry. It's like, what shape is he going to come in? What version is he going to come? This has got a 7-7 in the UFC, and for a very good reason, because half of the time he shows up, and dude, he looks pretty good. He stretched Vicente Luque in a very competitive fight, Nose gets shattered off of his face completely, and is still marching this guy down, still trying to make it happen. And that's against a guy that's a top 5, top 10 competitor. Very good fighter. Mike Perry, when he's in with it, he can fight with some of the best guys. When he's not in with it, it's like he just goes through the motions. And Mike Perry going through the motions is just not particularly good. You've seen him actually switch out his game plan a lot lately. He's looking to grapple a lot more.
Which I think would be a good path for him here, but I need to know the guy's in shape.
Okay,
before I would, because I don't know if he can grapple. Like the guy who showed up against Tim Means doesn't have the gas tank to grapple for 3 rounds.
Yeah, so that one's an interesting one. So he is on record, right? Prior to the tweets about I'm probably not going to make weight and I'm dying and all this stuff, right? Prior to all that, he's on record like not training for the fight. He's just drinking. The UFC put him in like a rehab stint where he basically got off the booze. And he was training like little bit here and there at Fusion XL in Orlando.
Now he's at MMA Masters.
Right, that's what I'm saying, right?
None of the head coaches are going to be in his corner, though, which I found was kind of interesting.
But have you seen the shape he looks at online that he's at MMA Masters? He looks in sick shape. And what I would say is that he botches his weight cut against Tim Means so poorly, gives up 20%, it might have been 30%, but anyways, gives up a cut of his paycheck, then goes out there and proceeds to get his ass kicked. The UFC knows what they got with Perry, right? Very few guys can go out there and punch a 60-year-old man outside of a Lone Star Grill. Who the fuck knows what it was? Anyways, go and punch out an old man outside of a bar and get away with it, you know? Very few guys can go and smash up their car, post it on Instagram, they're all cut up. Very few guys could get accused of a domestic abuse from, his ex, the Platinum Princess. Very few people can have a bad rap like Mike Perry, and then still the UFC is hanging by this guy's side. So they know that he's marketable because people like to talk about him. People like to watch him. He's super entertaining. You don't let a guy like this go to Bellator because guess what everyone's going to do on Friday night?
Bellator just would love to have a guy like this.
Yeah, because he would fight a guy that's 10-12, you know what I mean? And it would be great times. And for whatever reason, the bookie would tell you he's minus 650, but there'd be 5 other guys on the card that are all minus 650. You put them together. I'm saying UFC gives Mike Perry tough fights and Bellator would give him some much more favorable matchups. But the main thing is you don't let this guy go to a competitor because he gives you a solid effort. He gives you a fight of the night, worthy performance every time. It's just if he's not taking it seriously, he can't fight to an optimal level. Here's an interesting thing, right? Is that he's lost pretty much every time he's fought in a decent level striker. So his losses being Alan Jouban, good striker, pieces him up, drops him, outstrikes him. Santiago Ponzinibbio, we know how sharp Ponzinibbio is. Ponzinibbio also knocks him down, outstrikes him. He's sharp. Max Griffin, long, rangy, keeps it tight, keeps it sharp, right? Good striker. Knocks him down, outstrikes him, right? The Donald Cerrone fight. Donald Cerrone didn't even need to strike him. He just takes him down, submits him. Vicente Luque, sharp striker. Jeff Neal, good striker. Tim Means, good striker. All these guys have just rearranged him in striking battles. Does he come forward? Does he let his hands go? For sure. But he's not a good striker, man. Go back and watch the Mickey Gall fight again. He's losing all of the striking exchanges to Mickey Gall. But what he does in the Mickey Gall fight is too strong for him. Just takes him down, wrangles him to the ground, uses that top pressure. The Tim Means fight, even though he missed weight, he got a takedown in the first round. He arguably won the first round, takes his back. Looks good in the first round, I thought, right? But the bad weight cut, the not training for the fight, the not having a corner, man, like you can't only have Latoya with you. Like you got, I don't know, you just Vettori Gonzalez, yeah. You can't just do that shit, man. And it didn't work against Tim Means. But the fact that he's at MMA Masters now, hopefully he's got a corner. Hopefully he comes in shape. Hopefully he makes weight.
And he's got some fighters from the gym.
What I would chalk it up as, if he's in shape, ready to go, is that he's a live underdog, right? He's plus 140. Like in terms of, I've got Marvin Vettori, I've got Solecki Yusuff, I've got Julian Marquez, I've got Nina Ansaroff. Mike Perry is a live underdog in that he's going to come forward. He's going to try to mix it up. And listen, D-Rod, in his last time out against Nicholas Dalby, he did outstrike him.
He should have won that fight.
He should have won the fight.
I watched that fight.
But pressure is what fucking broke him, man.
I mean,
Dalby
it was
just kept coming.
mostly like cage control, I think, that won it. 1, 2, 3 rounds in all 3 judges' scores.
I know.
Because he outstruck him like 83 to
50.
To 50.
And he never got taken down. He
was pretty surprised, and that was like, he was surprised when they read the decision that way. I think we all kind of were because...
I bet him, and I was pissed off.
It was like a lot of,
but
stand
it wasn't
and stall, basically.
It wasn't a robbery. I disagreed with the loss, right? I disagreed with the decision. But it was relatively close. Yeah. But it was a relatively close fight. And so his cardio didn't look great. Physically, didn't seem like the strongest guy. And even though he'll go out there and land a ton of significant strikes, he lacks a little bit of pop on those strikes.
For sure.
Perry, you better hope you knock him out when you hit him, because otherwise he's just going to march forward. If he is in shape, You know, this is a guy that spent time with Rodolfo Vieira and Jacare Souza in Orlando. Now he's at MMA Masters. If he comes out there and gives you a good version of himself, he's a 50-50 fighter. So a 50-50 fighter on a plus 140 tag, he could make it happen. My official pick is going to be Daniel Rodriguez because I just think he's got the output. He's the sharper striker. I've listed off that he loses these sharper strikers. But this is
Mike Perry.
This is moving. He's going to be down on the ticket, right? Because I can fully recognize that there's some danger here. And depending on how Perry looks at weigh-ins, that could be a game changer as well.
I think his weigh-ins are bust. Like, don't even really make your decision concrete until then.
But he's taller guy, longer reach, throws output. You know, coming off a loss he should have won, chip on his shoulder. He's like 34 though. Let's be real here. He's a limited guy. So, anyways, I could see that one blowing up.
Like Mike Perry looked like absolutely abysmal against Tim Means in that fight. Now Tim Means is a very, very sharp striker. Don't get me wrong, but it was a bad scene. So hopefully he shows up in better shape this time around. All right, we got Joe Solecki taking on Jim Miller. Joe Solecki is a minus 230 favorite. Jim Miller can be had 4+ 195. I mean, I can't, part of me was like, sifting around for props, and I saw Jim Miller round 1, 10-1, and I was just like, you know what? Here's the problem with that. Joe Solecki is a black belt. Joe Solecki, 27 years old, seems to be making improvements. That Austin Hubbard fight just kind of jumped onto his back, secured that position, found the submission later in the round. But 230 for Joe Solecki in this spot. I'm not too convinced that he's the better striker. The grappling is probably a bit of a wash. Cardio would be in the advantage of Solecki from what I've seen on tape here. But it seems a little bit much for Joe Solecki minus 230. And Miller, when he hasn't been getting early finishes recently, what he's been doing is he's been surviving. He's just been getting deeper into fights. I think this is a dogger pass type of situation. I have no interest in Solecki minus 230. I will leave it at that. Yeah,
so Solecki opened 130, and he's moved 100 points to 230. Yeah. So
130, I would have been, okay, let's go.
I think that's the main thing. At 130, it's like, oh, okay, yeah. If it comes down to a grappling match, you have BJJ Black Belt, Jim Miller, been around the block 10 times over, versus BJJ Black Belt, Joe Solecki, fresh on the block. But if this is just a grappling match, if you presented me Jim Miller versus Joe Solecki at Submission Underground and Chael Sonnen's silo out in Oregon, I would take Joe Solecki. He's the younger guy. He's quicker. He's better with his movements. He's just a little bit faster. This just stays jiu-jitsu. As far as striking goes, Joe Solecki's not very good striker.
No.
Jim Miller's an infinitely better striker. Jim Miller has that wrestling. Jim Miller he would be considered a dog in the spot. But there's something with Jim Miller. It's like he's losing to these up-and-coming prospects now. Like there was a time where he's just a tough fight for a lot of the guys out there. I guess I shouldn't call them up-and-coming prospects. He's going to lose those high-end fights, and he's fought in all the best guys in the world.
Miller Pichel was
all the best guys in the world.
Super close. We were on Pichel in that spot. But
thanks to you.
Man, was that close.
Thank God we were on Pichel thanks to you. It was a close spot, but you got Vince Pichel as a 36-year-old man who fights once a year and has been extremely good to this podcast, let me tell you. But at the same time, it's like, what's the upside to Vince Pichel? If they keep matching up with this level of competition, great. He's not breaking into the top 15. He's always just kind of been that guy, right? He's losing that fight. The Roosevelt Roberts fight, young prospect, doesn't have the grappling, falls on top of him, gets the submission. The Scott Holtzman fight, you know what? He got out hustled by Holtzman, who we'll talk about in a bit. But Holtzman was very strong and physical and can strike. When I see with Joe Solecki, he's not all that strong and physical, and he's not a great striker. Beating the level of competition that he's beaten is just it's not overly impressive. Listen, by the way, a submission win over Matt Wyman, a decision win over Matt Wyman doesn't mean it means absolutely nothing.
Round 2, he's stuck in a guillotine at the end of that round against Matt Wyman, and I was just like, that's when I was like, maybe Miller by sub, but black belt. He didn't really get it.
The way he wrestles, and the way he initiates a lot of these scrambles.
He left his head wide open for it.
Exactly.
That's what I was thinking. I'm like, Jim Miller's got a good guillotine. He could probably maybe do that, but I didn't do it. I'm thinking over 2.5 rounds minus 150 is probably my favorite play in this fight.
You know what? You beat me to it. I think that it just ends up being a jiu-jitsu match. I don't think Joe Solecki submits Jim Miller. I don't think Jim Miller submits Joe Solecki. I don't think this is going to be spent enough time striking for Miller to get a knockout. And Miller's definitely, his best days are behind him. For Solecki, this is a great opportunity, right? The UFC, again, they know what they're doing. They're not giving the Jim Miller fight to guys that they don't believe in. They believe this kid's got high upside. He does seem like a good grappler. We'll see how far he can take this at 27. Maybe it's a little bit of too much too soon, but I think he should get the victory. The problem is the minus 230 price tag. It's a straight scare away. So in terms of the money line, I'm going to hit a straight pass. In terms of that over-under, I'll take that over 2.5 plus 125. I'll probably look at fight goes the distance as well. But we're 7 fights into the card. That's going to be my first official pass.
That's fair. All right, Pat, you had a question?
I have 2 questions, actually. One, when did you start watching so much film? I want you to call people cans and say they're the worst guy in the division, and we can bet against them.
We haven't got to the Yargis Danho fight yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we're getting down to Danho.
And then
we'll get there.
How often does Jim Miller fight? I feel like he's on every card.
I mean, the guy had Lyme disease. And so he didn't fight as much during that time because he was tired.
Yeah, so he made.
But now he's 37 years old?
Yeah, but he debuted in the UFC in 2006.
He's got to be up there with most UFC fights of any fighter.
He's actually.
I know
up
Cowboy,
there.
I think, has it because
it's
there
him
was
and Cowboy. It's him and Cowboy in that they share a bunch of the same records. Is that he's most fights in the UFC, most wins in the division, most submission attempts in UFC history. He's
never had a sniff of the title.
Isn't that crazy? Yeah, I know.
Yeah,
I was talking to someone the other day, and they were just like, "Yeah, he's
never going to be a title fight." But he's a guy who just you put him on a prelim, you can put him as the main event of the prelims, you can put him as the curtain jerker of any sort of card.
Okay,
and
fair,
he's going to show
fair.
up. He's going to show up and
He's
and
never
try to take a guy's head off.
He's never fought for a title. He has fought Charles Oliveira, Dan Hooker, Anthony Pettis, Dustin Poirier.
Oh yeah. He's a legend.
I'm not even talking about Beneil Dariush and Diego Sanchez. Those are not even title challengers. Donald Cerrone, Nate Diaz, Benson Henderson. He's fought in all of the best guys the sport's ever produced. He's never complained. Motherfucker got Lyme disease, like Paul said.
And still fought.
Yeah, and still fights. And you know something? I don't know if it's age or mileage or same thing happened to Clay Guida, really. He just doesn't seem to have the same cardio that he used to. Or maybe it's Lyme disease. But he's lost something on the gas tank.
As someone around
he's lost
Jim
a little
Miller's,
he's lost a little bit of zip. He's turning into Dan Miller.
As someone around Jim Miller's age who is not a professional athlete, let me tell you, cardio after the age of 35, it goes downhill.
Yeah, and listen, he runs his own gym, right? Him and Dan run their own gym in New Jersey. He's training the next crop of guys. He's got a family. He's a hardworking blue-collar man. Come down to some CCR, have yourself a time. Who doesn't like Jim Miller?
Yeah.
It's just hard to back him. But when they give you a plus 195 price tag, listen.
I think it's a dog or pass. I haven't bet on Jim Miller.
I think you're right. I have trouble pulling the trigger on Jim
My
Miller.
struggle is that, if Solecki's not able to just control the grappling completely and this fight ends up being on the feet, Miller may be the better striker.
He's got a good right hand. He's got a good little leg kick game. He loves to set up. If you look at it, he loves the calf kick. Inside leg kick, calf kick. Inside leg kick, calf kick. Line you up for the right hand. His technical boxing, not bad. But what we've seen with Jim Miller, right, is that he'll try to just blow you out in the first round, right? And when he wins fights in the first round. When the fight gets to the second and the third round, maybe he's just tired from trying to gun you out. Maybe it's the Lyme disease. Maybe it's the age, maybe it's God knows what, but it's second and third round. Jim Miller is a different guy. We're talking about the Vince Pichel fight. You mentioned it was close. I thought he won the first round. Second and third round starts to get tired of it. That's where Joe Solecki should be able to take over. And so what I will leave you with, it could be a good live betting opportunity. You might get a much better price on Joe Solecki if he drops the first round and then think that he'll just work his way back into it. But I got fight goes the distance and that over 2.5. That's probably the more sensible play.
All right, we got Matus Gamrot taking on Scott Hot Sauce Holtzman, minus 230 Gamrot, plus 195 Holtzman. Gamrot, obviously, not the UFC debut he was looking for, taking on Guram Kutateladze.
Yeah, you called that one.
Well, it's just Guram is best friends with Chimaev. Who do you think is shooting takedowns on him all the time? Chimaev. So you're going to have Gamrot, who has a little bit, it's more of kind of like the GSP style of takedown with him, where it's open field in the center of the octagon. That's where he does his best work. I think it was a really close fight, really competitive fight. I think these guys could fight 3-4 years from now, and the stakes could be considerably higher. I think they're both very, very good prospects, respectable prospects in this division. Holtzman, watching his Nick Lentz fight, he struggled to stop the takedowns. I think he gave up 5 takedowns to Nick Lentz. Obviously, it was a little bit different. Lentz is pushing him up against the cage to secure those types of takedowns. But, I think this is where Gamrot gets back on track. Frankly, we have Gamrot at a better price in this situation than he was against Kutateladze. And Kutateladze, much better prospect. Scott Holtzman's 37. Don't be fooled. This guy has not been around for all that long. But he was a former semi-pro hockey player before he came to this level. I think he's a very, very fit guy, very, very jacked, but technique's gonna win this one. Gamrot, haven't bet him yet. I was gonna wait to see what you had to say about it, but I think Gamrot gets on track here. Probably Gamrot by decision. We will see, but yeah, Gamrot is the pick.
Yeah, I'm all over Matus Gamrot. Again, yeah, you are getting a better price tag at 230. It all comes down to ring IQ because the similarities between him and GSP it's actually quite a few. The difference is George has just world-class ring IQ, and Matus Gamrot should have shot those takedowns against Kudelic a lot earlier than he did. Mind you, Kudelic is a total brick shithouse. Guy is solid piece of muscle. But it was in the third round, you saw Gamrot take over. And near the end of the second round, he starts to take over as well. But here's his issue. You watch him in KSW, he's the biggest 45er the world's ever seen. He wants you to the ground, you are going to the ground. Once he gets you to the ground, he's going to work you. His cardio, never ending. He can fight for 5 rounds all day, all night. Dude decides, I'm way too big for 45, time to go to 55. Goes to 155, and it's the same thing. He just absolutely works these guys over. It's the fights with Norman Park that change him. In the Norman Park fight, there's a lot of bad blood. And in the Norman Park fight, he decides to sharpen up his striking. The first time's a draw, or there's a no contest, I guess. The first time he wins, the second time's a no contest due to an eye injury. He poked Norman Park in the eye. That third fight with him versus Park, you've seen how good his striking's improved. He goes out there and he lays it on the line. Great fight. Busts him up, cut stoppage, much improved striking. Goes out there against this Marian Zlowski. Now, mind you, I've worked every KSW fight for the last 6 years, right? So I'm well aware of well aware of Matus Gamrot and his abilities. The Zlowski fight, he looked awful. Did not look good at all. Wasn't trying to get the fight to the ground. Stood there, watched the action unfold, and largely got outstruck. But in a 5-round fight, he can make a few mistakes, still win, because his cardio is awesome, and eventually his takedown and his grind will take over. That was the problem in this Guram Kudelic fight. If that was a 5-round fight night main event, no problem.
He would have taken over in rounds 4 and 5, probably.
No problem, right? Yeah, I would have even nailed that live betting line. He wins the 3rd round. It's like this is coasting in his direction. But in a 3-round fight, he's way too slow of a starter. And that's a problem with him in all of his KSW fights. And it was a problem with him in the Guram Kudelic fight. So it's kind of a problem in the Scott Holtzman fight. And that Holtzman's out of the MMA lab. And they're going to have a good game plan together for this guy. Pressure him, land those early strikes. If he doesn't initiate the wrestling, keep the striking, and just outpoint him. His striking, similar to GSP, is good, but it's not great. It's just he strikes long enough to nail the takedown. The difference is George nails the takedown. Gamrot waits a little bit too long sometimes. Dude went 7 minutes at the ADCCs with Gary Tonon. His grappling is tremendous. His physical side, his ability, his strength, tremendous. His cardio, tremendous. But guys that usually fight 5 rounds, and his entire KSW run for the most part is 5 rounds. Guys that fight 5 rounds all the time, they don't really put the foot on the gas to begin. Now, if he's just changed that, if he's just made slight adjustments, he's got this fight all day. If he waits a little too long to get going against Holtzman, this is going to be a closer than we'd like decision because Holtzman will win the early portion. He'll win the later portion. But it's important to note he's full-time out of American Top Team now, and that's going to be a tremendous thing for him because the game plan surely is get on this guy, and beyond that,
Lentz took him down
take
5
him
times,
down.
And that's where Lentz controlled the shit out of him.
Yeah, Lentz, a former ATT
Holtzman,
guy.
if he has the wrestling advantage, he usually uses the wrestling advantage. He does not have the wrestling advantage here. So those tend to be very, very tough matchups for Scott Holtzman.
Yeah, and see, Guram Kudelic, right, which I believe is Chechen. Is Dagestanian Chechen?
Georgian.
Right.
They call him the Georgian Viking, I believe.
The Georgian Viking, and then trains with the greatest cast of characters the sport's ever seen. It's like this guy is forged in fire. This guy's entire life, striking, wrestling, grappling, his entire life has been combat. Scott Holtzman played university hockey at the University of Tennessee. Played semi-pro hockey for the most of his adult life. He's 36 now, gone to fighting late. It's a tough, they're different guys. And he lost a close competitive split decision to Kudelic. I knew in my heart I lost but I was hoping maybe that third judge gave it to him.
I
knew
fight.
he lost.
It was
I know,
close.
but he waited too long.
But when
he just
when he was like minus
slight
330 or so in that spot against Kutateladze, it's like you should minus 330 shouldn't be in close fights.
Yeah, and I know people are like, well, man, it's because he came from KSW, soft competition. It's like, dude, you have no idea. So he beat the 2 fights with Norman Park, who's really good. Kleber Koik Ertz, total fucking gangster, right? Mansour Banui, total gangster. Marif Perev, total gang. He's fought very good guys and defeated them. No doubt he can cut it in the UFC. He was 17-0, loses a fight. And now you're getting a minus 230 price tag on him? Like, oh, okay, twist my arm, don't you? I'll give him another shot. He's my guy. I'm not writing him off just yet. So I'll take Gamrot. The over-under, it's looking...
find somebody to parlay him with.
Yeah, I don't know if he's top ticket. He might be second line. But now I look at a lot of the other fights...
Your tickets look like, but...
Vettori's top ticket.
Would you rather bet Matus Gamrot at minus 230 or Norma Dumont at minus 250? She takes on Erin Blanchfield, who is coming in on short notice, and she's a 125-pounder who likes to grapple, and I think she's very talented. I think she has there could be some good things for Erin Blanchfield moving forward, but I worry about short notice, 125er, moving up to 135, obviously because it's a short notice fight in this spot. And yeah, she always likes to go the grappling. She's controlled people in the grappling. And like you always like to say, Norma Dumont has a big old caboose on her. I don't know, Norma Dumont got completely knocked out, flatlined by Megan Anderson at 145. She took that fight on short notice. 135 last time out. She looked good. She was very, very strong. Once she gets in top position, she was very, very hard to move out of top position. I see a lot of people taking the shot on Blanchfield here, and I'll wait to be proven wrong because I'm all for, taking a shot on a dog that has a good path to victory, but what I see from her is that her path to victory is going to be increasingly more difficult coming in on short notice up a weight class. She's only 21 years old. I think there could be tons of improvements, and Norma Dumont's 30. She's 21. We talk about this fight in 3 years. Blanchfield could be 24, and we're dealing with somebody who's 33. And this could be a completely different ball game. But for right now, I think Norma Dumont's just a little bit too big for her. You always hear me talk about it with like wrestling. Wrestling, like size matters. Like trying to control somebody who is considerably bigger than you for 3 rounds is so difficult. So I'm picking Dumont, but I'm not going to touch it at minus 250. What about you?
I think I'm just going to go with the dogger pass. Take the Erin Blanchfield here. Again, I don't have a ton of underdogs at this point, but what I don't like is she's coming on short notice and she's moving up the weight class. That's all problem. But prior to seeing the weigh-ins, because we don't know what's going to happen, Dumont seems a little bit too big. So she fights Megan Anderson at 145, drops down against Ashley Evans-Smith at 135, and she weighed in at 139.5. Misses weight, right? So now she needs to make weight again. And I don't know if it's going to take anything out of her. She does have that big old caboose. She does seem like she's a naturally bigger fighter. Prior to fighting Megan Anderson, she had nothing on her resume. 0-0, 2-0, 0-2. Those are 3 fights. Then she wins a majority decision over 13-8 Marianne Moraes at Shooto Brazil 86. That's 3 years ago. Knocked out by Megan Anderson, wins over Ashley Evans-Smith. But again, misses weight against Evans-Smith, who's a 50-50 fighter in her own right. But see, she's preparing to fight Bia Malecki in this spot. Now, Bia Malecki is a European Muay Thai fighter. So, and a big girl, by the way.
Former 145.
Exactly, right? But the game plan would completely just be like ground this girl to the ground and defeat her there. And against Blanchfield, you're probably going to use the same game plan. But with Blanchfield, it's like she's a far better grappler. Now, the striking on Blanchfield leaves something to be desired. She did head kick Victorio Leonardo, who you see in the UFC now. But again, it's like her thing is she's 21 years old, right? She's so young. She's very green. She looks like a legitimate flyweight prospect. When you see her fight for Invicta, it's like this girl's got a very promising future. But usually the UFC builds you up a little bit. They're going to give you a couple winnable fights. This is a tough fight considering Norma Dumont's got the size. She's got the preparation that she had a full camp. She's got the you would think she has a slight grappling advantage, especially if she's in top control. I just think that being that she missed weight her last time out, it's going to be high pressure to make weight here. If she comes in here and she makes weight, and doesn't have great cardio, Blanchfield's going to take over. Blanchfield's scrappy. She's wily. She's young. She's aggressive. She's got nothing to lose. It's her UFC debut. I think that I would chalk her up as a live underdog, and they give me a plus 210 price tag. So
it keeps growing.
I want very low.
I see people on it all week, and
I want low exposure. I want low exposure.
They are taking Aaron Blanchfield. They are happily taking Aaron Blanchfield action right now. That's what I see. I see a lot of people taking that dog shot, and the price just keeps going up. But who knows? I'm probably living in my own bubble. I get it. I just think.
Do you feel comfortable in Norma Dumont at minus 250?
No, I'm not touching that. I would not parlay it. I wouldn't touch it.
So it's a pass. So it's a pass. But the price is so off that I'm like, yeah, maybe it's a dog or pass.
I just don't like grappler people who typically like to go in there and grapple, trying to push around someone who's going to be 15, 20 pounds bigger than you on fight night. Tough scene. That's my concern.
Listen, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. The bigger fighter, full camp, full preparation. You're moving up a weight class. But as a 21-year-old kid on a win streak with a promising future, a potential Invicta title fight coming up, with all these great things coming for you, why would you and your management company accept this fight?
To get in the UFC where you get paid.
You're 21 years old. What's the rush? You want to get in the UFC right now on a 12-12?
Think about when you were 21 years old.
Oof. Yeah.
And if they were like, hey, you can get 12 grand, you'd be like, I will kill a man for $12,000.
I disagree with that.
I don't think I had ever seen $12,000 when I was.
Cody, we lived together when you were 21.
There we go.
I think you made less than $12,000 that year.
No, I had a full-time job when we lived together. Here's the thing, right? When you get paid $12,000, you'd be like, okay, I need to fight 3 times a year to make $36,000 a year, which is a very minuscule amount of money. The difference between Pat and I living together is that what are my living expenses? We're paying a couple grand a month for a condo expense. I'm paying groceries. I'm getting a free gym membership through my connections through Fight Network. Whatever. It's like my life is pretty simple at the time. I don't have expenses. This girl, it's like, you have a dietitian and you're making weight and you're paying your coaches and you've got to get supplements and you've got to eat good, clean, organic food.
You can't do any of those things on an Invicta salary.
Right, but you do those things to prepare yourself so that when you do get the call, you're ready for it, right? When you see a lot of 30-year-old fighters who've got 20 fights under their belt, they take it all day and night. But some of these young prospects, it's like, I'm going to get there. This girl's earmarked for a contender series fight.
No, I think
this girl's earmarked for an Invicta title fight.
I think she's good, and I think she could be good in the future.
She could get an LFA title fight if she wanted one.
I just don't have faith that she's going to be able to employ that game plan against a much bigger woman.
And you know what? All I'm saying is her management team and her coaches, they have faith. They have faith that she'll be able to employ that game plan. And I'm going to roll with that dog or pass shot. But I get it. Listen, we could go back and forth all day. Pretty close, pretty competitive.
I'm not going to put up too much of a fight. I have no interest in betting.
It's plus 210.
No interest in betting Norma Dumont minus 250.
Right.
So it is what it is. All right. Next up, we got Ignacio Bahamondes taking on John the Bull Makdessi. Minus 190 Bahamondes, plus 165 for John the Bull, who I believe, back at UFC? What was GSP at the Sky Dome? UFC
when he fought Jake Shields?
Yeah. 150.
124? I don't know. No, I'm off on that.
129.
129.
I think I sold John Makdessi some shoes. I was working at the Mark's Work warehouse. We were in school at the time.
Yeah, dude, that was a dope ass fight. Spinning back fist over Kyle Watson.
Great spot. Yeah. I would watching Bahamondes, watching him on the Contender Series. The guy looks green as green can be. He's a monster though. 155 pounds. He's 6'3", 75-inch reach. He's gonna have a 7-inch reach advantage in this spot. Fun karate style. Got kicks and strikes for days. But watching him even in that Contender Series fight where he's taking on like a taxi driver from New York basically, and the guy did not look like a fighter whatsoever. I forget what the name of the
and what, his debut?
The Contender Series fight.
Oh, yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah.
The guy he's taking on was pretty durable, but it was, I mean, the guy was giving up at least this much reach. It was not competitive in the slightest. I don't know where they found that guy It was clear that they were setting one guy up, a Chilean superstar. Maybe they're going to go to Chile at some point to get the job done.
Right.
But I saw we just need somebody who can secure takedowns. Problem is, they gave him John the Bull Makdessi. John the Bull Makdessi has never landed a takedown in 15 fights or so. I don't have the exact number in front of me. Never landed a takedown. Basically never shoots for takedowns.
Never.
That is the path of victory. I'll go with Bahamondes. He's got the 7-inch reach advantage. I think John Makdessi has been, exploited a little bit with the chin, but I think that's a little bit overblown. I think Makdessi is going to try to close the pocket, close distance. He's just going to get chewed up a little bit. If he had any sort of wrestling game, this would be a dog or pass situation. I'll pick Bahamondes, but I really do think he's super green. I think he's only 23 years old. Yeah, I'll pick Bahamondes, but no bet here. What about you?
Yeah, okay, so I'm looking at it as another dog or pass situation with John Makdessi in that, man, this guy is more credited. He's fought in the UFC for a very long time. He's got the experience. He's fought in some good guys. His last fight, Francisco Trinaldo, he's fought the Donald Cerrones of the world. He's had these good spots. He's a really sharp technician. The problem is he doesn't have a ton of output. And I don't know if you call it a bad chin, right? So Donald Cerrone breaks his jaw with a head kick, and he basically just calls a timeout, quits on his own. But, I mean, man, he got his jaw broken by a head kick. Like, you're not going to fault him for that. And then he got knocked out by Lando Venata wheel kick from hell.
Makdessi has one fight where the output actually did really tick up. Was it 2 fights ago, maybe?
Yeah, no. I rewatched it the other day. It's his fight against Ross Pearson. Yeah, and he lands 131 significant strikes for 79.
Dust at that point, though.
But this is what I want to get at, right? There's very few spots where he's getting outstruck. So his Francisco Trinaldo fight, he outstrikes Trinaldo 67-55, but loses a decision. He outstrucks Jesus Pinedo 73-37. Don't even got to talk about that one. Ross Pearson 131-79. Nice. Abel Trujillo 47-29. He also knocked him down. The Lando Venata fight, he actually did outstrike him 11-10, but then got himself knocked out. Mehdi Baghdad, 84-60, right? So now we're looking at 6 straight fights, right? Him versus Yancy Medeiros. He loses a split. He outstruck Yancy Medeiros 114-80. He outstruck Donald Cerrone 72-71. He outstruck Shane Campbell, outstruck Alan Patrick, outstruck Hene Forte, outstruck Darren Cruikshank, outstruck Sam Stout. Bam, Anthony Njokuani. That's the last time he was outstruck in a fight. And it was 9 years ago. What's there not to like about John Makdessi? Now, he doesn't have a ton of power, doesn't have a ton of finishing ability, but as far as being like a slickster, stay there, and just ever so slightly edge you on these close exchanges, he's there for it. Now, leaving TriStar, he just had a loss of confidence in TriStar, leaves there, and ends up going to Rufus Sport. And you know what to say about that? Career suicide. But then he actually leaves Rufus Sport and goes to MMA Lab, right? Training with Scott Holtzman, going to be in shape of this fight. The one thing that's the real cause of concern, even though there's a plus 165 tag here, is that he blew out his ACL. He had major ACL surgery, and by his own account, only started training back mid-February. So, this is not looking great. He's 6 weeks off of a major ACL. He took 9 months off. That definitely leads to a plus 165 price tag. But the issue with Bahamondes, 23, has fought in fucking nobody, right? Edson Gomez is the guy we're talking about on Contender Series, is a nobody. And prior to that, nobodies. He lost to Salvio Becerra, which is 2019. That's his last loss.
Yeah, I watched that one too.
Yeah, the Combache Americas fight.
I mean, he just got that guy had a 72-inch reach or something like that, which that's 4 extra inches than what Makdessi has to work with. There's a big...
That fight's really at 170.
And just watching
now he's coming down to 55.
Watching some of Makdessi's better moments is he's never faced a guy with this type of reach. That is my major concern. Bahamondes minus 190. It's kid is very, very, very clearly green.
Very green.
I would not. I mean, we keep talking about Gamrot minus 230. Much better than these other favorites.
Yeah. You and I have been talking about this also since 2012, right? Makdessi should try 145. Should go down to 145. He's not a big lightweight. And now he's taking on pretty much the biggest lightweight. How many other guys are 6'3" at 155 pounds? Luis Pena, yeah. My boy Will Chope once upon a time was 6'4".
Yeah, he's fighting. He was
a featherweight too.
Did you see that? Will Chope's fighting 2 guys or something?
Donnelly got his Fight Circus tattoo on his ass.
On Fight Circus. Yeah, that's it.
On Fight Circus. Yeah. Fight Circus is the greatest promotion I've ever seen, man.
I don't think I've ever watched it.
No, have you not? Man, no. I will get you a Cam Soda subscription just so that I could use it on a different credit card. And also, it's tremendous. It's great. It brings you back to like that old feels and stuff. They did this basically it's like, I don't know, it's bare knuckle boxing, but they do this whole, it's great production. He's
taking on
John Nutt's next level.
2 guys who they label as inexperienced.
Well, it's banking no money, so they're actually 2-0 already.
145-pound guy, but he's...
No, Chope's a welterweight now. He's much bigger.
He's welterweight now.
He's a much bigger guy. He's 6'4". It's only a matter of time before
I know.
Out. Plus, he doesn't care as much. But banking no money, dude, it's 2 guys. 2 guys. So I don't care
how
good
they're inexperienced.
Well, they're inexperienced, but it's 2 guys.
I want to see pictures of these guys.
If you and I were to take on a UFC veteran,
they'd kill us.
Right, you would think so, right? Well, yeah, but these guys are actually training every day, banking no money. The fact that it's 2 guys, though, man, that's a big thing. Because realistically, one guy can just shoot on a takedown, stuff your head, protect yourself, but just shoot a takedown. Surely he has to address it by digging double underhooks. And while he does, the other guy's just free to smash him in the face.
Between high school...
It's 2 guys!
Between high school football and bar fights, I've had a few too many concussions at this point. 1 punch, I'm probably out from any trained fighter. I mean, we used to call me One Punch Paul.
Yeah,
it's the exact
Paul,
opposite.
Dude.
Exactly. You can still call me One Punch Paul, but it's probably because that's all I would be able to take from these heathens.
Straight up, I don't mean to come off disrespectful, but if the 3 of us, me, you, and Pat, took on Jordan Griffin, or preferably, I think we fucking beat the bitch.
Well, let's not talk about beating up.
I was talking about Jordan Griffin. I'm kidding. He's not a bitch. Pretty tough guy. Live spot here. Live underdog, plus 110. What am I talking about? I mean, it's 3 dudes. So Will Chope's got they're 2-0 for a reason, man. They fought this giant middleweight Ukrainian. Giant considering they're like both really small themselves. And they put it on him. And then their last time out, same thing. Fight Circus is going places, dude. Fight Circus is going places. I'm on board.
People like it weird. People like the weird shit. All right, we got Jorgen De Castro taking on Jargis Danho. Minus 310. Jorgen De Castro plus 260 can be had on Jargis Danho, who hasn't fought in like 5 years at this point. Going back and watching, you always know me talking about like who is the worst heavyweight. Christian Colombo was that guy. He used to be on the Mount Rushmore of the worst heavyweight in UFC history. Christian Colombo more or less beat this guy's ass. And this guy, I'm going to call him the Weasel. Just a straight up Weasel Jargis Danho. In that Colombo fight, he's up against the cage. He slips his hand down quickly just to do a little tap. Eats a knee. Mark Goddard, maybe the worst referee on planet Earth.
Hands down.
He always tries to become part of the fight. He always wants to be the narrative. Fuck that guy. He ends up taking a point, which ends up turning this fight into a draw when they go to the scorecards at the end.
Crazy that he was in a draw with.
Next fight out, taking on my boy Danny O. Danny O. Malanchuk. Don't know where he is these days, but you know what? He beat the shit out of him. They get to round 3. What ends up happening? The Weasel takes like a little like left hook to the balls. He drops like a sack of potatoes, requires medical attention. And then luckily, who was the ref? I think it was Leon Roberts. Great ref.
Yeah,
Can't
great
understand why Leon Roberts isn't around anymore.
And Mark
I always thought he was a really good ref. He was just like, fuck this. So it ends up going to... judges without going the full distance. Yeah. I forget what it's called.
Technical decision.
Technical decision. They go to technical decision. Danny O's wins, and all is well in the world.
Can I just cut you off real quick?
The major issue here.
When you bet on your book, right?
Yeah.
Always bet by decision or technical decision over by decision. They're always the same price.
I don't see.
If you bet by
options.
Decision, oh yeah. Well, Bodog does anyways.
All I'm going to say,
if they say 3-round decision versus decision or technical decision, you always take decision or technical decision. Covers you on those because that's not a 3-round decision win if you bet that.
Unless Danho has made some sort of groundbreaking discovery in the last 5 years. This guy looked like the worst UFC heavyweight I think I've ever seen in my life.
Right.
The guy's striking is horrible. his only good highlights, you'll see some people like pumping it up. The only highlights that you see are literally against like complete bums on the regional like German scene or wherever the hell he's fighting. Unless he's made some sort of crazy improvements and we don't know, maybe he shows up at the weigh-ins and this guy's just been on the goods coming into this fight.
Have you seen him? He's obviously on the goods.
Well, I don't know if he's on the goods. Why? Has there been pictures that have resurfaced from him?
Yeah, he's jacked. He's
right now?
Yeah, totally jacked.
Since the last time?
Totally
does he
jacked.
look better than he did?
He looks like he's taking his strength and conditioning very seriously.
Show me a picture.
Okay, well, I'll have to bring one up here. But yeah, okay, go on.
The guy was horrible. The guy's a weasel.
Terrible.
He's going to look for the referee to try to intervene at all times. Jorgen De Castro doesn't really throw very much volume. That is a big problem in a lot of his fights. But technically, from what you can just see on tape, like Yargis Danho doesn't belong. And I hope for everyone's future fights in the promotion that he gets flatlined here. He does actually seem to be pretty durable. Though he will look for like any opportunity to get his opponent a point taken away. Fuck Yargis Danho, Jorgen De Castro for the win. But I don't know if he necessarily finishes him or finishes him early. I see it's like I get the sense that Yargis Danho is actually pretty durable. So I don't know. Maybe De Castro by decision, but I don't know. I don't know what to think about this flake. All I know is that the UFC heavyweight division will be a better place when we get rid of this scrub. What do you think?
I'm honestly shocked that they've kept him on the roster. I mean, it's been 4.5 years. And to put things into perspective for you, right? He turned pro in 2012, and his last fight against Christian Colombo was in 2016. He fought professional for 4 years. He's now been away from the sport for 4.5 years. Longer than the entirety of his professional career. Dude, he might have gotten much better. He might have absolutely done nothing.
He may have done nothing.
In 2017, he's linked to a fight with Dmitry Poborets, who never actually fought in the UFC himself, right? And Danho got hurt. So he's hurt. He's out of the fight. Whatever injury he sustained keeps him on the sidelines for 2.5 years. And then the UFC, being a great promotion, they book him against Greg Hardy because fuck him, right? We know what we're doing with Greg Hardy. We're trying to build Greg Hardy. We're looking for guys like Danho to come out here and get his ass kicked. So you bring in Danho for Hardy, and Danho gets lucky. He pulls out again. Now he's a second injury. Okay, fair. They bring him in against Tai Tuivasa a year later. It's like, dude, he's already been off 3.5 years at this point. You're bringing him
against Tai Tuivasa. He's a nice guy. He's got the shoeies. He's a fan favorite. He's electric. He's entertaining.
Perfect. So you book him against, you know what? This guy, he's using our medical coverage, right? So we got to book him a fight. And technically he's not cut. And why are we even keeping him? Have you looked at him? He's a mountain of a man. Again, we'll see how weigh-ins. He's not one of these like flabby heavyweights. Like he's an in-shape heavyweight. His problem is, you watch his fights. We can only go back on his fights 4.5 years ago. He only does two things. Overhand right, clubbing overhand right to try to get in on like a single leg and just tries to muscle you to the ground. It's all muscle. If you're not successfully muscling down Christian Colombo, Daniel Malonchuk's actually a gangster. Like the guy's not bad in the slightest bit. So that one I don't really particularly care about.
You guys ass beat in that fight.
Yeah, it's that like he just didn't look good. He didn't look UFC quality in any of his two fights. Like you said, he's going for these cheap tactics just to get out of there because he just looked out of it completely. Since then,
that ball shot, not being able to continue after that should have been like your cut. We don't want your kind around here.
But you know what? In the Daniel Malonchuk fight, when he's not gassed, he doesn't look terrible. Mostly just on his brute strength. He's a brute strength guy. So in this fight, it's like, geez, Jorgen's not very big as a heavyweight, man. He's like 5'11". He was 2-4 as an amateur. There's a lot. If this fight hits the ground and Danho's on top of him, you're giving an advantage Danho. The thing is like Jorgen Castro gives no fucks. You know what I mean? He'll just let that right hand go and let that leg kick go, and
I think the
batter
leg
you
kick.
away.
I don't see, unless Danho's made severe or significant improvements, I don't see him stopping the leg kicks, which would worry me about like any sort of overplay in this spot.
Yeah, and you know what? His chin checks out pretty good. He got hit by Felipe. He got hit by Greg Hardy. He's not had any issues there. The Taffa fight, the Alton Meeks fight, it's like if you're not great and you're going to stand in front of him, he's going to deliver a significant amount of power.
What's really changed in the last 5 years? Leg kicks. The utilization of leg kicks since Danho's been in there, like nobody was throwing leg kicks like they are now.
Yeah, and Jorgen Castro is like 5'11", 261 pounds. You know, he's got a low center of gravity, and he can load up on those power kicks. Whereas like Danho, 6'4", again, big, strong, muscular. I think he's like 258 when he fought Colombo's last time out. I don't know how big he'll come into this fight, but I got a feeling that once his leg gets chewed up, he just, like you were saying, the coward's way out.
He's going to flop around.
Yeah, once his leg gets chewed up, he'll have no plan B to switch to. No. When you don't have a plan B to switch to, you get desperate. And when you get desperate, you look for a way out. And so De Castro normally comes in at a real nice price tag. That's when you love to bet him at it. You're the king of this. You nailed him against Alton Meeks. He was plus 550.
That was just dumb.
Right. And then the sons of bitches gave you even money against Junior Taffa or Justin Taffa, and you hit it again. When they book him against Hardy and Carlos Felipe, it is that step above. So it's like, I don't really want to bet on the step above. When they give him the Jorges Danho of the world, you hit it. The problem is we got heavyweights. We've got very middling heavyweights at best. It's 310, terrible price tag for De Castro, and Danho may have made a bunch of improvements. I really don't think
I parlayed him with Marvin Vettori because I couldn't help myself yesterday, Cody.
Yeah, no, all good. Listen, it's. I'm not gonna say dog or pass. I would say pass because it's 310. But what I'm feeling is this over 1.5. Like Danho, if anything, he seems to be, like you mentioned it yourself, durability doesn't really seem to be an issue. And with Jorgen De Castro, durability really doesn't seem to be an issue. I think this thing banks in a few rounds. The over-under, it's the only fight. We had initially a 15-fight slate. Only 2 fights were listed as over 1.5s, right? Mm-hmm. This one and William Knight Jung. So as far as an over 1.5
is in that, because that 1.5 is juiced to minus 200.
It's minus 200, right? But I think this thing gets to 2.5. Fight goes the distance. Again, I'm a degenerate. I'll have some action on that at plus money, but the over 2.5 is probably the smarter play. My issue is that the 2.5 and the fight goes the distance is a difference of 2.5 minutes. Most guys can end up surviving, and also the price is not.
Danho
it's not usually a whole lot
2.5 rounds. I'll be very triggered for like those 12.5 minutes.
This guy could
gotta go.
This guy could very well win the first round.
We don't want this guy on the
grab
roster.
The cage and lose a point. Like he's not.
This guy's bad for the sport, from what I saw in his UFC career. Just bad for the sport. The Weasel. Yeah. Get rid of the Weasel. All right, we got Jack Shore taking on Hunter Azure. Jack Shore minus 170 favorite. Hunter Azure plus 150. I saw some people jumping on this one maybe a couple weeks ago, and it was close to a pick'em. Wish I had got on it at that point. Minus 170. There are some questions about Jack Shore. I think what I wrote him down as here is he's kind of like English Khabib. I see a lot of the same tactics. He tries to force people up.
If you believe that, it'd be Welsh Khabib. I am fucking in.
He likes to try to push guys up against the cage, and then it's body lock. Once he secures the body lock, dragging guys to the ground. It's the same type of techniques that he uses. I don't think he is Khabib, obviously the greatest fighter of all time.
He's from Wales, not Dagestan, Russia. It's limitations here.
Hunter Azure, what we have seen from him, when he took on Brad Katona, taken down 3 times against Brad Katona in that spot, ends up getting the win because Katona just basically didn't throw on the feet whatsoever.
No, bad performance.
And then against Kelleher, he gasses. He just kind of keeps a pace that he just can't keep up with.
It was a good 3.5 minutes, though. You got to give him that.
Yeah, no.
He just couldn't consistently.
And then the following fight after that takes on Cole Smith. He lands 5 takedowns, but he gives up 2 takedowns. And those takedowns are late. Why? Gasses. He gets really tired. The last 2.5 minutes, he's literally just fighting off a rear naked choke from Cole Smith, who I don't think is any Jack Shore from what I have seen on tape. I did take a couple of little small flyers here. I feel like I missed the boat And there's enough questions about what Jack Shore can do at this point that I don't love the minus 170, or I feel like I've missed out on the best part of the line. But I took Shore by sub plus 300 and Shore round 3 plus 1100. Just some sprinkles, just some tastes.
Question.
Yeah.
Can you parlay any of these with people to make the cut at the Masters?
I don't know. Who's the
it depends on your book.
Lock
It depends. It depends on your book for sure. But if you were to put
Siwoo Kim minus 170 to make the cut is pretty good.
Yeah, it's solid. Solid. Yeah. You match him up with Marvin Vettori, who I think is your go-to. Honestly, I'm gonna have some tasty parlays. Well, I won't know if they're tasty until after the fights, but
Jack Shore is gonna be at the top.
Jack Shore's on it for sure. I like Jack Shore a lot. Jack Shore's my guy. I mean, again, he's one of those guys that we've been able to follow through his regional scene career on Cage Warriors. And dude, the guy looks legit. Like you said, he just goes to his wrestling hard. You know, he's got a little bit of judo as well, and he's got great grappling, and he just grapples. Cardio, not an issue. What you've seen from these Welsh fighters, mainly him, Mason, you've got Brett the Pikey Johns. These guys got one hell. Okay, it all comes. Brett the Pikey Johns, that's best. You ever seen the movie Snatch? Mm-hmm. You're old enough to see Snatch. Pat, you seen Snatch, all-time classic?
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, Brad Pitt, the Pikeys, right? Okay, these motherfuckers, they can take a shot, right? They're traveling gypsies, go from town to town. They can take one hell of a fight. These guys are the Mexicans of Europe. They can take one hell of a shot. They're super durable, and they've got heart for days. The problem is that when you're coming out of Russia, again, you've been doing it since you're 3 years old, 4 years old. You're put in a room where it's like, here's other 300 impoverished kids, and whoever wins this tournament can get to that next level and potentially provide for their family and create a better life for themselves. So you're fighting for your livelihood and your future as a young kid. When you come to the UFC, a fist fight, it's not a big deal, right? We're Canadian. We have no fucking idea what that's like. They don't offer wrestling in elementary school. Your parents didn't put you in combat sambo as a small child. At best, you took karate or taekwondo, which are relatively useless skills.
They're taking hitting out of hockey here. Like,
it's puss stuff, man. We're on lockdown again, right? There's whatever. It is what it is. At this point, it's kind of getting sickening, but I also understand there's a different side to it. What I'm saying is you're not put in a position to succeed at the highest level, right? Americans can at least wrestle in elementary school. They go to high school. They wrestle in high school. They might be able to be lucky enough to get a scholarship, wrestle collegiately. And as a result, these guys come in. Hunter Azure, you know, he was a junior college national champion, I believe, at the very least, multiple-time All-American, standout junior college wrestler. And you know what? It's junior college, but it's no big deal. What I'm saying is that you can wrestle D1, D2, D3, or NAIA. There's a platform for you to increase your skills. Now you come to the UFC and you've got a bona fide skill set. It's just different, right? So can those Welsh guys get to the level of Khabib? I don't think so. But what I like a lot, what I see out of these Welsh prospects, is that they've all got really good grappling. They've all got really good cardio. They've all got really good chins. You're going to make a good name for yourself and go very far if that's your set skill set. And that's exactly what we got out of Jack Shore. One thing you have seen out of them for the most part, outside of John Phillips, I mean, he can't wrestle, they can't strike. That's the lapse in the game, is that the striking is just not quite there. Brett Johns, same thing, you know, striking falls a little bit behind the grappling. And Jack Shore's the same way, right? If this stays as a striking battle, he's going to lose the striking exchanges to Hunter Azure. Azer's very fast. He's very athletic. Mm-hmm. And when you see in the Kelleher fight, is his striking is massively on point. Loves to go to that body shot, the liver punch, you know, comes up very quick. Good punching combinations, but like 4 minutes of letting his hands go, he's tired. Mm-hmm. Kelleher works his way back into it at the end of the first, puts him away in the second, right? That's like cardio falls off, but it's the Cole Smith fight, like you talked about. Wins the first 2 rounds against Cole Smith. In the third, dude's tired, gives up his back, almost gets rear naked choked by Cole Smith. Drum roll, please. Canadian. Now that he's taking on this Welsh destroyer of worlds and Jack Shore, like Jack's going to lean on him. Leaning on him is going to tire him out. Tiring him out is going to open him up for
Round
submission.
1 could be difficult.
Round 1's going to be difficult. He's way faster than you. He's got better striking. And let's be honest here. You're a good wrestler. You're a good grappler. Hunter Azure is a very good wrestler. You've seen him in Contender Series, single legs for days. You've seen the Katona fight where it's like he does get taken down by Katona. But if this guy wants to wrestle, more than capable, you know, coming out of... He was at the MMA lab. I believe he's at Fight Ready MMA now. Henry Cejudo, you know, basically in charge over there. This guy's got a lot of good things going for him. The problem is you see in the Kelleher fight, you see it to a lesser extent in the Cole Smith fight. He slows down. And if you wear on him, that's when he starts to open it up, right? So he comes in here, he's 29 years old. Could he fix those mistakes, get better, move on? Yes. But I think Shore just comes in as a younger prospect, guy's able to lean on you. And best quote is that, like, you know, when you watch interviews on him, he's very adamant that, like, I'm going to put Welsh wrestling on the map here. Like, I'm going to go and put a clinic on this guy and then show you that Welsh wrestling just as good as American wrestling. I'm going to show you, right? Very self-confident, knows where his best path to victory is, and that's grind this guy, and that opens it up. And so Paul, my boy, you know, been doing the show a long time with you. When you say you got him by submission at plus 300, you got him by third round finish, I agree completely, dude. I think those are all good plus money price tags that you would chase. I got Shore. Would I say Shore's a top ticket guy? I like to wait till weigh-ins to make my final plays, but I like what I see out of this kid.
Nice. All right, Pat's got something to
Yeah, too late because I already made the bets. So here's the thing. Siwoo Kim, Jack Shore, Siwoo Kim to make the cut, Jack Shore, and Vettori pays plus 203. Just those two guys to win and Siwoo Kim to make the cut. But if you want to get tricky, you take those three plus Phil Mickelson to make the cut.
Oh, you sick fuck.
Plus,
he's so old. He's playing on the Champions Tour.
Yeah, and he's playing in the Masters. He'll be fine. And then Miller and Solecki to go the distance. That pays plus 703. So 7-1. I'm playing those two. I already bet them.
Yeah, you know what? 7-1. That's a good price tag. Good price tag. My problem is with Phil. You know, like I was always a Tiger guy.
Okay, so Phil's just really good at this course, so he knows it like the back of his hand. I know, man. But listen, Siwoo Kim can get dicey, and Pat knows that.
Hey, Siwoo Kim has made the cut at the Masters 3 straight years. Phil coming in with excellent ball striking, making a few fucking putts. Phil, first round leader too, 100-1
Is Phil? What's Phil? 52?
No, but Tim Andercust already. You know when Tim does the granny throwing money away gif?
Yeah.
He did that for Jordan Spieth, first round leader. So I actually bet that cool bet had it 20-1.
20-1.
Yeah.
Yeah, you know,
there's no dead heats. I don't think
Tim's the gift that keeps on giving.
What it is. But Tim is that gif. When Tim Andercust posts that gif, he never does it for MMA because he doesn't follow it close enough. When we post that gif, the win rate is just astounding. I believe in the Andercust as my.
He did it for Connor.
What's that?
He did it for Connor.
Yep. He said Connor couldn't lose?
He said Connor couldn't lose.
Dustin Poirier.
You know, that's what
Dustin Poirier got
that's what screwed Connor.
Got the trilogy fight out of this. Good for him.
Yeah, that's way better than a title fight.
Connor loses and he's just like, rematch. I need a rematch. Every single time. The
best thing for Connor is when he does lose.
If Connor loses this next one, like, is he done? Done?
No, not done.
Who do you match him up with at this point?
Anybody. He doesn't have to fight a top
Paul
5
for $100 million.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. You know what? And this, I learned this when I was a kid. Never made much sense until I got older. They say the money's in the rematch. The money's in the rematch. Doesn't fucking matter if you lose. My dad would always say that. Money's in the rematch. You lose the first one, doesn't matter. The second one, that's what's more valuable here. He goes out there and he loses to Nate Diaz. So instead of getting one money fight, he ends up getting two, potentially 3 against Dustin Poirier. You knock him out once. You go out and you knock him out a second time, that's over. That's the end of it. You lose, you get a third one. If he was to fight Jake Paul, best thing he could do, go out there, fucking lose. And then you're going to get a second one out of it. Mm-hmm. Although if he lost to Jake Paul, obviously it's like time. You know,
none of these people have Mike Brown in their corner.
Mike Brown's a dangerous. You know, it's funny when they do John Kavanaugh quotes, right? He's never like, oh, I talked to Connor yesterday, and it's always just like, you can tell there's a disconnect. Like he does not talk to this guy on a week-to-week basis, maybe not even a month-to-month basis.
Outside of Connor, like no disrespect.
For us, it's the same thing.
But I'm gonna sound disrespectful, like, yeah, it's the same with like for us. Well, I guess Rory McDonald was there, but like besides Conor McGregor. John Kavanaugh, like, who was his second greatest pupil?
Aisling Daly, Cathal Pendred. We got John the Killings Field, Paddy Holohan. Artem
Lobov.
I said the same thing about Faraz. Took some heat about it, but it's absolutely true. But I said the same thing about Faraz a couple years ago. I said if GSP never met Faraz Zahabi, you'd know who GSP is. He'd still be a GSP. If Faraz Zahabi never meets GSP, you never fucking heard of the guy, right? He never produced anybody. The guys that went to the gym,
Rory wouldn't have went there unless GSP was there.
Rory came from BC.
Yeah.
And you look at a lot of the guys that came over there. They're all guys. Arnold Allen spent some time there. Tom Breeze spent some time there. Todd Duffy, not Todd Duffy. Who's the guy that beat Connor? Joe Duffy. Joe Duffy spent time there. Tons of guys have gone there. European prospects for the most part. They're not like Canadian built. If you watch the Bellator card from Friday, last one, Mandel Nalo. Yeah. He built up Mandel Nalo. Because like is he a top 5 guy in the UFC? Is he a top 10 guy in the UFC? No. George came there, right? He was a Christoph Midu trained guy. The early portion of his career, he was going to Greg Jackson's. And then he established himself as a world title challenger or a world champion and then put Faraz on the map. Connor put John Kavanagh on the map. And as a result, guys like Makwanamir Connor, Gunnar Nelson and stuff, Brad Katona.
They all spent some time there.
They all go there.
It really hasn't improved their game all that much.
No, not at all. If anything, it's regressed. But I don't know. Hakeem Dawodu spent some time there. But you know what? It was just iffy when he was there. Now he's back in Alberta. Guy looks fucking awesome. Sometimes you don't got to go to those mega gyms. No. But I say you go to ATT, there's no way it's bad for your game. You go to Sanford MMA right now,
they're not necessarily giving you Mike Brown.
As most of the guys in this card walk in there and they're B track guys, right? You're on the B squad, you're on the C squad. ATT now apparently has this thing where they don't even accept everybody. Like they accept most guys, but they don't accept everybody. It's like you got to actually be decent. And when you come in there, mostly it's just you're cannon fodder for some of the good guys, right? You get put on a team where you're going to go and wrestle with one of the good guys. You're going to strike with one of the good guys. And all yours is getting their confidence up. You'll see sometimes where people will be like, oh man, he's knocking out all the sparring partners in camp. So who the fuck are these guys? It's like these guys breaking into the UFC. It's what they're doing, right? You get paid to spar. Francis Ngannou, this is the best. Dewey Cooper, right? Or it wasn't Dewey Cooper. But anyways, it was Nixick, right? Eric Nixick from Extreme Couture. It was on Embedded, right? He's working mitts. He's like, calls for the head kick. Francis throws a head kick. He perfectly blocks it. And then he's like, oh, give me a second, man. And he's like, oh, that's why you get hazard pay. It's like, yeah, dude, he just concussed you with a block head kick, right? He's a fucking monster of a man.
With pads blocking your head, but
and you called it. You called the technique. You know it's coming, right? Because in MMA, it's the one that you don't see coming, right? In this, it's like you know it's coming. You're well prepared and you're braced for it. And you still take a massive amount of damage. So this guy can't do that all the time. You need bodies to do it all the time. That's why guys in the lower end will typically take some damage in training camp and persevere. But I don't know. Good fight all around.
We have 3 fights to get through. Let's get through them pretty quickly. We have Luis Saldana taking on Jordan Griffin, -130 Saldana, +110 Griffin. I'm never right on Jordan Griffin fights, so I'm gonna let you let you take this one away. I'll add in a couple things at the end.
Well, it's tough to get about Luis Saldana, right? He comes in with a 14-6 record, and that's topping on the fact that he's on a 4-fight winning streak. I mean, after he lost to Alex Wiggins Jr., he was 10-6, and that fight's 4 years ago. He's fought 5 times in the last 4 years. It's not ultra impressive. It's kind of a problem with his record in general. The notable names on his record are Mike Santiago, because he fought in the UFC, but he got knocked down in the 3rd round in that fight. Justin Lawrence, who's on the Ultimate Fighter, fought in the UFC, fought in Bellator, but he lost a decision in that fight. There's no other notable names on his record. So he loses to Alex Wiggs Jr., again, 3-2 opponent. Then he beats Will Shutt, 23-25. Ramiro Hernandez is actually a UFC veteran as well, out of Battendorf, Iowa. 20-10, right? Decent record, but not a very good fighter. Carl Wittstock, 10-4, and then Vince Murdoch. Now, here's the thing. I'm very familiar with Vince Murdoch out of Michigan. Had a brain hemorrhage, which is why the UFC...
Alligator arms.
Yeah, there's no fucking chance he's getting in the UFC. I know he was actually scheduled to fight in the UFC against Jordan Griffin in Milwaukee, Jordan Griffin's backyard. And then his head scan came back and it was like, no. But it's like, he's not UFC caliber. He shouldn't have been in the UFC. This was easy money on the Contender Series where Saldana was -175, but he's not losing to Vince Murdoch. And his striking looks good. And that's one thing I'll give him. He's 30 years old. He's been fighting pro for 10 years. But it does appear that he's still making improvements, namely to his striking game. And yeah, it's a nice front kick over Vince Murdoch. But beyond that, his striking just way more polished. He's, a rangy guy, stands to the outside. Griffin is also a rangy guy, Also stands to the outside. Also a decent striker. The difference is that Griffin doesn't seem comfortable striking. He strikes long enough to try to get a hold of you and get you to the ground. And his grappling's good, but his wrestling is just okay at best. If this thing stays standing, I think Saldana is going to be able to beat him. If this fight hits the ground, especially if Griffin's able to get the takedowns, it's Griffin all day.
Griffin doesn't really shoot for takedowns.
His wrestling's not very good, and so
his grappling's good. If he can get into those exchanges, maybe it's something ugly against the cage, but the guy doesn't typically shoot for too many takedowns.
No, it's tough for me to think, right? You have plus 110 on Jordan Griffin, right? You have a guy here that fought Dan Ige and lost a 29-28. All three judges took a round over Dan Ige. Lost the fight. Took a round over Dan Ige. The Chaz Skelly fight, he takes a round over Chaz Skelly, loses 29-28 across the board. The TJ Brown fight, he gets the win, huge win, and he's rewarded with a fight with Yusuff Zalal. And didn't give a bad account of himself in that fight. He's in that fight. Unfortunately, he's given up the takedowns, right? His wrestling defense is not very good. I don't think he's got to worry about that with Luis Saldana. But Saldana's got 14 career wins, all by finish. He's got 8 submissions, 6 by knockout. So if this fight goes some deeper waters, I got to favor Griffin. Mm-hmm. If this fight ends up being a grappling match, even though Saldana's got 8 submission victories, a lot of that is like he beat the shit out of you standing, you toppled over, and he submitted you. Griffin's got a grappling advantage. He's got an experience advantage. You know, there's some things going right for him in the spot, to be honest with you. Saldana's making his UFC debut. And honestly, I found this stat to be pretty funny, right? Luis Saldana, right? So he gets his contract on the Contender Series.
He had a 10-inch reach advantage against Vince Murdoch.
Yeah.
He's giving up an inch and a half in this spot. And against Murdoch, that was clearly, you know, Murdoch wasn't able to close distance. He was able to just pick him off until Murdoch was just basically like, okay, fuck it. I'm going to charge forward and just got knocked out. So like in this spot, he's actually given up reach. My problem with, I think the path is there. I just never see Griffin wrestle, but it could just be like a crazy, chaotic type of situation. I think there is a massive grappling advantage for Griffin.
Yeah, and see, it might be Saldana curse. So Saldana's on Contender Series, right? And all 4 guys that won got a contract that night. In fact, one of the guys that lost ended up getting a contract that night. Jared Vandera was the opening fight. Got the contract. Didn't look like he should be in the UFC. He beat Harry Hunsucker that fight, who somehow, Paul, got into the UFC. Proved that he shouldn't have been there.
Yep.
Carlos Olberg, who was Adesanya's training partner, got mauled up.
Looked okay for about half a round. Looked okay for about half a round.
Like he's a good-looking guy, but I mean,
handsome, very handsome.
Yeah, his striking was his hands were so low the whole time. Until he got knocked up
a little bit by Kennedy and Jukwu.
Right. So we got Olberg, he lost in the UFC. We got Vandera lost in the UFC.
As well.
Ignacio Bahamondes and Luis Saldana.
I think I remember watching that card and being like, "What? You're giving out this many contracts? Like, all of these guys are going to get punished."
So now that guy's going to jump into the UFC against a guy in Jordan Griffin who took a round over Dan Ige, who took a round over Chaz Skelly, who has a win over Derek Minner on the LFA regional scene. He's fought a lot of good. Yeah, like isn't it Dogger Pass? As much as Saldana has
straight up a dog.
Yeah, I mean, I feel it, dude. I feel it. And as far as this over 2.5 at minus 205, like I don't know about that either. Saldana's got a 100% finish rate, and Jordan Griffin's got good grappling as well. Like Saldana's lost 6 times, most of which by submission. I don't know. This might be an inside the distance Griffin, but you're already getting plus 110. You might as well just take the straight money line.
All right, we got Jung taking on Thick Willie Knight.
Thick Willie, did you just come up with that?
No,
that is great.
I took that from the MMA analysis.
Yeah,
show.
that is great.
That is their nickname, Thick Willie, for this guy.
Oh yeah, he's definitely Thick Willie.
I mean, 205-pound fighter, but like he's like 5'10".
See the chest on the guy?
Jacked as shit. I mean, we were lining up to bet this guy. At basically a pick'em against Alonzo Menifield. What is going on with this line where we have Daong Jung, who honestly probably should have lost to Sam Alvey last time out, and they're giving us plus money on William Knight. I understand reach advantage. William Knight's going to be giving up reach against every single guy that he fights in the octagon. But I think the cardio kind of checks out for him. I think he's strong as an ox. He's going to be able to like muscle people around. I want to see Thick Willie get in there, push Dong Jung up against the cage, control him, drain him a little bit, because I do have faith that that William Knight's able to go 3 rounds. We've seen it in his previous UFC win. I took him plus 120 yesterday because I was like, you're giving me plus 120? I was lining up to take him at a pick'em price against Alonzo Menafield. So if I lose, I lose, but I just think that I like this guy. I think he's got decent potential. I don't know against the top guys at 205 pounds. I think he's giving up a lot of size, and his striking definitely leaves a lot to be desired, but guy's got heart. And I'm Dong Jung. I did like how he slipped, like the little slip 1-2 that he threw to Mike Rodriguez when he knocked out Mike Rodriguez. I did like what I saw there, but I saw a lot of problems in his game against Sam Alvey. I think that William Knight is without a doubt a very live dog here. So if you're giving me a better than 50% chance in this spot, give me Thick Willie. What about you?
Yeah, honestly, Thick Willie's a poor man's Derek Lewis. Like, he gets away with making a couple mistakes here and there. When he gets taken down, which is almost every fight, he just decides at some point, like, no, time to get back up, and just gets back up. And when he gets back up and he hits you, he's got a lot of power. This guy's a problem for a lot of people. He's 33, a little bit old, but you got a guy that started off as a Muay Thai fighter, good stand-up, good striking, good power, who's now spent a lot of time on his cardio. For a guy that's that thick, that strong, he's coming back in fights. You look at this Hardem Alakabek fight from Contender Series 2019. He loses the first round. He's getting taken down. He works his way back in. He punishes him, puts him in with ground and pound in the third, late in the third. Cardio checks out. All that muscle keeps chugging through. Jamel Jones, he took that fight. It was a catchweight of, he came in at 218. Jamel Jones a little bit bigger. He gets taken down by Jamel Jones early in the first round, powers his way back up, blasts him standing. Tufan Juqui, freak of nature. We don't got to talk about him right now. He's got a legitimate prospect. Rocky Edwards. Dude takes him down. It's like, well, why are you getting taken down by Rocky Edwards? A 12-9-1 undersized journeyman. But as soon as he gets back up, he makes him pay. He takes him out. Cody Bunridge, taken down early in the first round. That's Amanda Bobby Cooper's significant other and just like a wrestling powerhouse. Like, this dude's very strong with his wrestling. Takes him down the first. He works his way back up. He smashes him. Alexa Kmore his last time out. Wrestling not on display. But it's like, man, he good choices, good ring IQ, good power, good punch selection. A lot that you can like out of this guy. Again, 33. Again, a little undersized. But it's like, he's got really good ring IQ. Mm-hmm. And so I watched back a couple CFFC events, and he's the commentator. He's one of the commentators, like a guest commentator. So I listened to him. I'm like, fuck, man, this guy knows what's up, right? And when you look at all the other guys that are fight commentators, whether it be Dominic Cruz or Paul Felder, they all got really good ring IQ. Mm-hmm. It's like you see something. You're a smart guy.
You watch a ton of fights.
You're well-spoken. You watch a lot of fights. Most guys, straight up, most guys go to the gym. They work out. They leave the gym. They go home to their family. They have their dinner. They're not watching fights. Most fighters are not fight fans. They fight. They like to fight. They do not follow the sport. That's fine. There's some guys, they just live and breathe the fight. All they do is just go out there. All they do is compete. All they do is just watch stuff. He's one of them. I think he's made the improvements. I think he goes out there. As far as a 110 underdog goes, I agree. Dog or pass. I'd like to see him get the wrestling going at some point. If not, what we saw from Dong Jung, he was just walking into all of Alvey's shots. Straightforward. Guy with high ring IQ, like Knight, is going to capitalize. He's got as much, if not more, power than Sam Alvey at this weight class. He's a natural 205. I know he's short. That muscle. You think Sam looks like that on the beach?
Look at his Tapology. Look at his Tapology image.
Fucking chest. How did he get that vest on? How did he get that vest on, Paul?
It looks like it's painted on.
His tits are popping, right? If you saw Sam Alvey and William Knight on the beach, come on. It's not. I'd give you 10-1 on William Knight. Mm-hmm. Thick Willie earned the name. I think as far as a 110 underdog goes, I think he's live.
And finally, we got Impa Kasanganay taking on Sasha Palatnikov. Minus 280 Kasanganay, plus 240 Palatnikov. Palatnikov, I mean, was a big surprise for a lot of people, taking on a Contender Series guy in Kosi. And honestly, he went through the works trying, like, early on in that fight, was able to take some damage, but like he was rocked. It was ugly. Right. And obviously was able to take over late, get the finish late. Kasanganay, great athlete, but I think we really saw limitations. Obviously against Buckley, Buckley was just the better technical striker. Obviously, Kasanganay is going to be on the highlight reel of UFC fights. Basically,
forever.
The Bubba O'Reilly is always going to have that kick from Joaquin Buckley.
Greatest knockout of all times.
When they start like NBA Top Shots for UFC or whatever they're going to call it.
That'd be the top one for sure.
That's going to be one of the, it'll probably be Conor McGregor stuff that is worth all of the monies. But that'll be one of the coolest, most sought after.
I don't understand.
There won't be much from Joaquin Buckley except for that. I can understand people. I don't collect cards. I don't collect any of this
Cards
shit.
are badass. My whole life I've loved collecting cards. I got like a Jerry Rice rookie card. That stuff's cool to me. I got a Phil Baroni rookie card. Again, cool to me, not anybody else. Pokemon cards, Yu-Gi-Oh cards. That was my shit. If you ever want to play me in Yu-Gi-Oh, you're fucked. I got the Actually, if you have a new generation deck, I'm way out of it. I'm like 15 years removed from that.
I had the
greatest.
I can understand the value. I
can
understand people, collecting and stuff like that.
Love cards.
It
digital
seems
cards.
Like,
digital
for me,
cards.
it seems like a game that I'm going to lose to people to. So I just kind of stay away from it.
Digital cards, which is apparently that's what everyone's comparing it to.
I can understand. It's just like an actual card that you get if you bought like a Conor McGregor card. Well, you have to make sure that when somebody ships it on eBay, that it doesn't get damaged in the mail and so on and so forth. At least with digital, you don't have to worry about that. The grading and the and all of that, you don't have to really worry about. It's not going to get damaged. It's a digital moment.
Yeah, that's fair. But how could you say you own it? Like,
well, because you own it.
Because own what? What do you own?
You own a GIF
nothing
on your phone.
You own a GIF on your phone.
I mean, I think some of the prices for a lot of this stuff are going to drop down immediately. But anyway.
Listen, all I'm saying is if I've got a Wayne Gretzky rookie card graded a 9.2, right? That's got to be better than some sports highlight clip. You know how many clips there are? Like, how do you monetize that? I know our boy Kyle Marley, apparently he does it, and apparently he's had tremendous success. Like, better than wagering on UFC fights. So we live in the age of the internet where there's a lot of money out there. Don't know if it's real or fake money, but you could get cryptocurrency and shit. You could be a crypto millionaire off nothing. Phil Baroni fought in ONE FC. It was like one of their first events. And in the contract, it was like, we'll give you $25,000 and we'll give you a Bitcoin or 2 Bitcoins or something. So he just took it, forgot about it, right? Didn't even realize it was in his contract. Realizes he's got the Bitcoins. And it's like $140,000.
This is a totally different discussion for a totally different day. If we wanted to get into,
I'm going to take the underdog, Sasha Palatnikov, plus 240.
Cryptocurrency versus our current financial markets. Yeah. We could have that discussion. I don't know if people are here for it, but we could do it on a different day. Maybe a week where there isn't a fight.
I could drink Land Shark and talk about anything with you, my friend.
All right, buddy.
But yeah, we'll take it home here. We'll take it home here. Impa Kasanganay is an absolute monster physically, right? Mm-hmm. And now you have to factor he's coming down to 170 for the first time of his life. You look at anything online, he's absolutely shredded to the nut. Remember before Bilal Muhammad Leon Edwards, I was like, yo, you see this guy online? And you're like, mm-hmm. It was like, how could you be that in good a shape? Impa Kasanganay at 170 looks fucking real deal. He looks in tremendous shape. The one issue is that he'd never had good cardio to begin with. I think that he was a guy that was a little lackadaisical. He very much like went at a very slower pace. He looks like he's very green. He's improving from a collegiate football player, great athlete, making those improvements. I believe he's left his confines of his original gym and gone to Sanford MMA. You go from Gym O in Carolina to Sanford MMA, it's a huge thing. You come in this kind of shape, looking at 170.
So, well, Gym O, well, then why aren't you taking shots at Joe Solecki, who trains over there?
You know what? So this is actually funny enough. Scott Holtzman was there and he left for the lab. And Impa Kasanganay was there and he left for Sanford. And Joe Solecki's still there. And he's with John Salter, Bellator. He's literally a title contender at this point and UFC veteran in his own right. When he celebrated that win over Jason McDonald with the broken leg in Quebec, or was it Quebec or I think it was Quebec. Might have been Toronto. I think it was Quebec. I was at that show live. I hated him. I was like, what is wrong with you? Dude broke his leg. You did nothing to break his leg. And he's on the cage celebrating like it's the happiest moment of his life. I'm a big fan of John Salter now, though. He's a great coach, smart guy, good ring IQ, plays to his best abilities. And even though he's older, he's just like a fine wine, getting better. Bellator title challenger. No doubt that a guy could get better from being in Gym O. it's just like going from there to Sanford, there's bodies, you know. Now you're getting Michael Johnson. Now you're getting Gilbert Burns. Now you're getting Michael Chandler. Now you're getting, I guess Usman's not really there at the time, but there's just an absolute plethora of very good bodies to work with. No doubt that he'd be getting better. Coming down to 170, probably the natural weight class for him. No doubt that's an improvement. Him coming in tremendous shape, no doubt that's a great thing. But minus 280, it's all narrative. It's all narrative. It's that he should be better at 170. He should be better coming out of Sanford MMA. He should be better. All these things, right? Whereas Sasha Palatnikov showed us in the Lewis Koski fight, he got rocked bad in the first round. He's got a hell of a chin. He's got a good gas tank. Mm-hmm. And for plus 240, I'm willing to bet guys with good chins and good gas tanks. Because all he's got to go do, he's got a great kicking game. Impa would have to back him up and pressure him in order for Sasha to not get the kicking game off. But Impa's not really one to pressure guys, right? You see it in the Buckley fight where he's mostly moving backwards the whole time. He's a football
player, and frankly, his striking looks very rigid when I see it from him.
It does. He's green and he's a little stiff.
They're both football players, and that's completely fine. But one guy has a minus 280 price tag next to it. Mm-hmm. The other guy's plus 240. I mean,
Sasha's from Hong Kong.
I think it's a little bit wide.
He's like from Hong Kong by way of somewhere else, and then
Buffalo.
He came to the University of Buffalo.
You told me that story last time when he was taking on Kosi.
University of Buffalo. Doesn't wrestle there, but he ends up playing rugby and football, and then ends up at Extreme Couture. When you look at his record, it's very light on names. And he lost to Munir Laziz. You know, he wins over a nobody. And then you see him against Louis Kosi. He's a big underdog because he's taking the fight on short notice. He's not supposed to be anybody. But his coaches at Extreme Couture, they're in on it. They're like, yeah, man, this guy's live here. Got a good chin, got a good cardio, good work ethic, and a good rangy kick game. His hands, not very good. You see him in the Koski fight. But his kicking game's good. And when Koski got desperate and tried to take him down, his takedown defense looked okay too. So I think in this fight, all he's got to do is just put some pressure on and just try to out-volume this guy. The problem is that Impa Kasanganay is going to come in freakishly good shape and might have turned the corner. He looks like the kind of guy that has the skills that if he turns the corner someday, maybe he's 2 years away, maybe he's 3 years away, maybe he's 3 days away. But once he turns that corner, he could be a legitimate prospect. I'm just thinking at 240 on a card that don't have a ton of underdogs, worth a shot.
All right, fair enough. Any final thoughts?
No, that's
or should you just hit him
Listen,
with PRP
we're probably going really long at this point.
I think we probably went close to 2 hours at this point.
It's a 14-fight card.
Close to 2 hours. Pat's yeah, Pat's had to leave a couple times. Okay. He's answering phone calls.
It's a 14-fight card, and we've had some land sharks. We're going Vettori. We're going Sodiq Yusuff. We're going Julia Marquez, Nina Ansaroff, Daniel Rodriguez, Joe Solecki, Matus Gamrot, Aaron Blanchfield, dog number 1, plus 210. John Makdessi, dog number 2, plus 165. Jorgen de Castro, Jack Shore. Jordan Griffin, dog number 3. William Knight, dog number 4. Sasha Palatnikov, dog number 5. Tune in to Twitter. Hit me up a message. Gotta watch weigh-ins.
Make sure you hit them belly picks. You'll be dropping them on Friday afternoon, I would imagine, or Friday morning.
You got to get it out Friday morning for the people, obviously. Fight's coming up. Bellator also, you'll lose the lines really quick. Like, if you jump on it right away, you're good. If you wait till an hour before the fights, you're getting like 9-1s. And beyond
Bellator
that,
cards for people who are going, because I've seen them in your comment section going like, they're like, oh, well, they're just too, man, it's too much chalk. Why you just take a Bellator chalk hits? Scott Coker and his matchmakers are sitting in a room going, how do we get this person a win? I think this person's marketable. I don't think that really happens as much in the UFC.
Yeah, I agree. If you, me, and Pat fought Mackenzie Dern on a UFC show, we got no shot. But if it was matched up on a Bellator show, yeah, we got no shot, dude. The matchmaking would have done what they needed to do, and we'd all be getting omoplata rear naked chokes. I don't know how the hell she does that. Hell of a move. Yeah, that leaves you with that. We got a PRP in play, big time fights. Hopefully not much of this falls off. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, another good betting weekend. We'll craft out the proper ones. We'll do some prop plays as well and hope for the best. But yeah, I mean, we're 80% of the last 3 weeks, so let's keep that going here.
Let's do it. All right, that is it for us this week. Hope you enjoyed this show. For Cody Saftic and Pat Mayo, I'm Paul Shaughnessy saying goodbye and good luck.